Hello and welcome to Just Play Tabletop Wargaming. Today we are going to review Broken Realms Teclis and the new Lumineth Battletome basically in full. Guys, thanks for everyone who's tuning in live. And if you're watching this back, please give us a like, subscribe to the channel if you want to keep up to date with all our other upcoming videos. We've really got some exciting announcements coming up this Sunday, so you definitely want to pay attention to that. But most of all, if you do want to support us, please make your next hobby purchase from justplaygames.uk. So I think we'll get straight into it. We're going to try and take as many questions as we can from you all in the chat who have kindly tuned in this Saturday morning. But we're going to be going through Broken Realms Teclis. We'll talk about the factions featured in there, and then we'll sort of separate and talk about Lumineth in full. Well, if you don't already know, today I am joined by Mr. Ian, co-host of Just Saying podcast with me, and who also owns Just Play Games with me as well. So, Ian, thanks for joining us today on the channel.
Welcome.
Good to see you back, man. Good to see you back. I'm excited to talk about this with you. We haven't had as much chance to talk in person, really, about particularly the Lumineth stuff. So, yeah. I've got a feeling as normal we're not going to quite agree on this from seeing some of your large statements so far about them, but I think also we will come to a bit of an agreement towards the end. So let's without further ado get into it. So we're going to start off by talking about Broken Realms Teclis. So big impact book again, right?
Yeah,
even maybe without the Lumineth.
Yeah, changing some Warscrolls for some armies that sort of needed it. Good new city. Maybe not the most impactful for like the Flesh Eater courts, for example. But yeah, big book for the meta. I think changes some armies quite significantly.
Cool. You know what? Let's just look at them. So you touched on the first point, and these we're gonna skim over a little bit. With a competitive match play sort of focus show. So the Flesh Eater Court one you mentioned, they get a battalion, right? Warscroll Battalion?
Yeah, it's Mortavel's Hell Court, or Hellcore if you're French. Doesn't really do a lot, really. It's flavoursome. It goes with obviously all of these new battalions have got boxes coming out this weekend as well. So it's a good box with some cool stuff in it. It's got the arch regent and that kind of stuff in it, which is great. But yeah, not very high impact. Again, the ability of the battalion is ignoring battle shock, pretty much. It's just one of them things where it's like, it could have been something interesting and really cool and fun, maybe, to make one of the 4 factions in the book a little bit impactful. It could have been an update to a war scroll to get that army a little bit of a boost it needs. And we've just got a relatively poor battalion that is essentially an extra command point and battle shock immunity. So, yeah, not very good, really, unfortunately.
Yeah, not every army in Broken Realms has had the full, treatment like the Deepkin did last time. Some of them are there for the story side of Broken Realms, aren't they? And this is certainly one of those cases.
Yeah,
I think it's... interesting. It's got an arch regent in. They're not in any Warscroll battalions before, I don't believe. So it's quite nice. It's pretty much an auto include, from a drops point of view. The box set is decent though, and like collecting a Flesh Eater Court army is super easy to do. From that. So that's quite cool. Like if you are into them and you want to play them. So
then it is awesome.
And then we've got the
OBR
Reapers.
Horex Dreadlance. So this is, I want to say, a tiny bit better in a way. It's got a Liege Cavalos, who's, again, the characters in these have got names. A Liege Cavalos and 2 units of Death Riders. They've got to be Warscrolls, which is not one of the most played factions, but it is still a decent faction. We've messed around with that on our playtest and stuff as well. It's not terrible. Whenever you use the Rally Back command ability, which is the one that lets you retreat and charge with them, you get your Relentless Discipline back on a 4. So it's not a terrible ability, like useless like the Flesh Eater Court one, I want to say. But again, because it's only 2 units of Death Riders on him, it's just not big enough to be impactful enough as a battalion, really.
It's too much of a duplicate of the one that's already in it as well. Like basically,
which is better.
Which is better. And you might, if you want that stuff, you might play in Warscrolls anyway, right? Because they are the night one, aren't they?
Yeah, plus the fact that one relentless discipline point back isn't really much. You know, it's not a very big battalion benefit, so you're not going to choose this one over the other one. So yeah, I know these are story focused, and the box sets for them are both great. You know, getting the Cavalos and 2 units of Death Riders there is really good. That's another good box. But you know, if we're going to release some new battalions, why not make them good and playable?
Yeah,
like, you know,
story-wise, why is that one just a duplicate of one? That's the one that's bizarre for me. But anyway, we don't think these ones are particularly. We're not going to spend much. It's enough for them, isn't it? Spend much time on them as well. So that's great.
Nurgle, on the other hand,
So let's touch on Nurgle now. So Nurgle from the Broken Realms book. Now,
these are some updates.
This is should I be more concerned about these than Lumineth? Maybe.
I'm slightly more concerned about these than Lumineth, potentially. Certainly concerned for the shooting meta about what this implies. But should we look at the Warscrolls?
Yeah, so we've got the Sloppity Bile Piper. Yeah.
Right. So this guy is 150 points, right? So he's at that like new standard a lot of these buff heroes seem to be coming out at now. Unless you're Lumineth, in which case they're still not at 150 points, but 150 points for everyone else. All these buff heroes nowadays.
Let me say something on that and the points on these, right? Like, they're expensive, or the Lumineth ones are cheap, or whatever. I'm struggling, bar a hag maybe, to find any buff character in the game that compares to these guys. Like, these are costed. Like,
yes, they are.
Yeah, like the abilities these have got are insane. So
let's talk about what it means for the army after we look at the Warscrolls, because I've got plenty of thoughts on that as well. So this one, right? Firstly, it's game disgustingly resilient, which it didn't have before, right? So it's a little bit harder to kill, which is good because it's a buff hero and you don't want it to die. So it's effectively got like 7 wounds. And it is not terrible in combat. You know, it will do some damage if it hits something, right? But the main reason is obviously we've got these gut pipes. So you pick one of these at the start of the combat phase. A unit can only be affected by 1 tune, or weirdly worded, if a unit is affected by 2, they don't do anything. I don't know why they've chose to word it like that, but anyway. So
right, like you just spread out. You might have different things going on in the battlefield, mightn't you? And you could be doing something.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I think
something aggressive over here.
I guess that's the only real play difference is it means that you have to position them so you don't get 2 of them in range of a single unit, which is anyway. So
that's I don't know. Like
the first one,
people saying they wouldn't take multiples of these guys, and that
they're wrong. So
I think it's okay.
So a stab and we will go +1 attack to all the melee weapons in the unit. Okay, pretty decent. Always some of the strongest kind of buffs +1 attacks. That's always the ones you're looking for. You don't see them on many modern Warscrolls now. You know, like old stuff like Vampire Lords that used to have it. It was just kind of common, and you just don't really see it anymore. So that's powerful. Only a 14-inch range though, so these have got to be up there with the unity buffing, which is Plague Bearers. With these, because it's got to be Nurgle demons. The second one is whenever you roll a 6 to hit, you do mortal wound, and in addition to any normal damage. Which is even better in most cases for Nurgle. We'll talk about those 2 in a minute. And then the third one, this is very, very good. This is like a real, like, techie, clever ability. It's got a stupid name. My love is like a ripe fart. I don't like this stupid, silly stuff. I'd rather have serious fantasy, personally. So enemy models were in
not
3 of a friendly
Stigma then for you, yeah.
No, not really. Enemy models were in 3 of a friendly Nurgle demon, while it's within 14 of the Bile Piper. Can't finish piling moves closer to a model from the unit than they started, which is incredible. Yep. Like, if you fight an enemy unit that's got a 1-inch reach and you've got longer reach, they can't hit you. Although that's not that easy to do in Nurgle because they don't have a lot of that. But quite simply, you know, you smash your units into theirs, they basically don't get to pile in. to all intents and purposes. They still get their moves, so they can still use it for pre-positioning and, you know, moving the models around it, but they can't come into range if they, you know, if they are in 3 inches and they've only got a shorter reach.
Yeah.
So you're not gonna, it's not as bad as a thing that stops you piling altogether. And also, you know, you get some models on the edge, you know, like if models are 3.1 inches away, they'll be pile and be able to hit you. So you get this like weird bands, like the close models might not be able to hit you, but the further ones might be able to. But depending on how the unit's position, they might not be able to pile past their friends to get into combat. So it's almost like a can't pile in ability. And it's great. It won't work in all situations, depending on your unit and what the enemy unit does. But you've got 2 other buffs to choose from. And this is just an option sometimes to really screw someone over in the right position. Those 3 abilities, Nurgle's got lots of stacking buffs, is the main thing to think about here. You know, there's a Great Unclean one that can give extra attacks. You've got Blades of Putrefaction, which gives mortal wounds on a 6 as well. So in theory, you can stack up like double mortal wounds on 6s, or you can buff attacks on a unit and give it mortal wounds on 6s or whatever. There's different combos. And the maths on which is better changes quite a lot depending on what you're hitting and what unit you're doing it on. Like, for example, Plague Drones, because they have lots of attack profiles, benefit a lot from the +1 attacks. But they also benefit a lot from the 6s to wound. So, you know, a unit of Plague Drones being buffed by a Great Unclean one for +1 attacks, and then this for mortals on a 6 or whatever, can do an awful lot of damage. Like, the only thing Nurgle was really lacking up until this point now was the ability to do damage, because the survivability is great. You know, Plague Bearers are 300 points for 30, -2 to it with shooting, which is super important in this meta. They've always been good against shooting, and but they haven't always had the damage output necessary for where the game is at to keep up with it. And they're quite fast as well, Nurgle. That everyone thinks they're slow unless you played against them. So all they really needed was some offensive buffs, and this guy is the offensive buffs. Yeah, and he's just brilliant. 150 points. Like, Nurgle stuff's not that cheap for what it does at a baseline, though. Like, Plague Bearers only have 1 attack each. They're basically crap. And their survivability,
like you just said, so
yeah, like their survivability is outweighed by the fact that they don't do any damage, which is why they're not a great unit. But with this guy, you can obviously change that. I think the problem is this guy's expensive, and so are they. So the only problem they maybe have is, you know, they still aren't like the most efficient in the world because they're not the cheapest. But I think they're a very good army, very, very good, and very good in this meta. Yeah, just because of this one guy. And then there's another guy.
Yeah, and it's not even just him.
Yeah,
expensive. These are not expensive.
Not what to do. Oh, and you know, also point out as well, that ability doesn't use any command points, and you don't have to roll for it.
Yeah, so exactly, like, right. Like
one of the few buffs you get that level that doesn't cost anything.
You just do it, don't you? You know, it's nice to get this custom resilience help with them staying alive from, you know, just kill the characters.
Yeah.
You know, obviously they will die if you really focus, but I mean, I think it means they just don't like passively die, or, you know, 1 unit of 10 Lumineth bows don't kill them, you know, that type of thing. So,
or someone doesn't just spike and manage to do 5 wounds, he still stays alive on 2 or whatever. Yeah. So the Spoils Pox Scrivener this guy's slightly less good, but he's 140 points. So you pick 1 unit within 14. A unit can't carry out more than 1 count per phase, basically. So it's, again, it doesn't stack. Yeah. One of them's +1 attack. Look, there's another one. Or you get an extra rend, or you get an extra save. So again, with this, you will almost always be picking attacks, but depending on how many attacks your unit's already got, rend might be better sometimes. And the option for saves when you really need to just keep something alive is also good.
Yeah.
But
you think your guy's better than this?
They stack.
Because the piling, because the affects multiple units.
Because the extra rend is less good than the mortals on 6s against the target you want to choose it against, and I think the piling thing is situationally like bonkers. Yeah, like most anti-piling abilities are. So my list, I've got two Bile Pipers on one of this guy.
Really?
My character setup for most of them, yeah. So what you want to do essentially is that your default combo, again, it changes depending on what you're hitting, but this guy gives them +1, a unit of Plague Bearers +1 attacks, which takes them from 1 to 2, which is a big percentage increase. And then the other guy either gives them just another attack, depending on what they're fighting, or makes them do mortals on 6s.
And then tough models get mortals, or stuff that's susceptible to mortals, and then if you're fighting chaff, you just throw more attacks out, right?
Yeah.
Is it that simple? Is it maths on the attacks is better than having the 6s? It's more about what the save on the opponent unit is, yeah.
Yeah, it is, yeah. So the break point for choosing rend over attacks on this guy, again, it changes by saves. But basically, if you're already doing like 3 attacks against something with like a save of 4, the rend is better. Yeah. So on Plague Bearers, you will almost always be choosing attacks, like no matter what the target. But on Plague Drones, you might be choosing the rend or the mortals. So if you're going to play this army, though, I would definitely advise. I mean, I've done all the maths for this. We probably could have shown a spreadsheet, but it's not that easy to just intuit and understand on screen. But you really want to learn all the things that you should be using your optimal things against for this, because they do change quite a lot, and depending on what your unit is and what they're hitting as well. But I love the fact that they're not just both offensive characters. One of them's got an anti-piling, one of them's got a save, so you can switch mode when you need to, and the
so good. Like,
yeah.
What a buff to an army! Like, it's
really
mad.
Good.
So you've put a couple of lists together.
Yeah.
You've really gone exciting here with these, Ian. When you sent me these over,
they are not like,
wow, he's been really creative.
Yeah.
So we've got 2 on screen here for you.
Yeah. So the first list on the left. So this is it's Munificent Wanderers. The Munificent Wanderers is the Wrath of the Everchosen allegiance for them, which an important part is when you're fighting an Nurgle demon unit, you get -1 rend, basically. Yeah. So that makes the Plague Bearers, most things have got 1 rend nowadays, so the Plague Bearers like almost a 4+ save with a 5+ after save, which is tough for 30 models in a 300-point unit.
And then you can make them a 3+, is that right? Or is that making them a 4+ already?
You can, well, it ignores a rend, just not to confuse everyone, but yeah, you can add another save on, so they can basically be a 4+ save, ignoring 1 rend.
All right, okay.
Yeah, if you want to add the other thing on. So they can be really tough. And don't forget, they're -2 to hit with shooting and -1 to hit in combat as well.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, the army on the left, incidentally, I apologize, I haven't put artifacts and spells on it, but, there's a Wither Stave on the Great Unclean one, very obviously. So, yeah, Munificent Wanderers is the obvious only choice, really. 2 Sloppity Bile Pipers and a Spoilpox Scrivener, as I've just said. Great Unclean one with his Wither Stave. He will also have Favoured Poxes is the -1. Sorry, Blades of Putrefaction, of course, for mortals. 90 Plague Bearers, a unit of 10 Plague Bearers. Taliban of Nurgle, which is like, these lists build themselves to some extent, because the Taliban includes all of the Heralds.
Okay, yeah.
Like, and it also includes a Great Unclean one. So this is a 1-drop.
Right. So this is like, is it just take X number of Nurgle units? It's the one from
this is just from the book. So this is 4 to 7 plague bearers, Plague Bearers or Plague Drones, 0 to 1 Great Unclean ones, and a bunch of Heralds. So and the Taliban gives you models back in your Plague Bearer units every turn as well. So they're tough, and now you get some models back on top of that as well. So
you really need, if you're going to take one of the hosts or whatever, you really need to get out of the artifacts, don't you, with Nurgle as well, because you could probably take like 3 Nurgle artifacts and be happy, couldn't you? There's plenty. I mean, certainly you want. Yeah, your basic one from Munificent Wanderers, you've got to take, obviously, but then you want to Wither Stave in this kind of army where you're just like tanking damage. You want to Wither Stave, and this army is like so hard to kill and has a lot of damage output.
Like, and I think, funnily, the only weakness in this army actually is shooting the characters, because there's not a good reason not to, because you're -2 to hit the Plague Bearers, you're only -1 to hit the characters, so it's actually, you might as well shoot the characters, and with the amount of shooting in the game right now, shooting them off is going to be the problem for you. And then you'll have, but you know, if someone puts a bunch of damage into shooting them characters off, you're going to be sitting on objectives while they're doing that. So you might lose your damage output quickly, but you're still very tough. You don't lose any of your survivability.
You don't think? I'm surprised you go for 2 Sloppy Bile Pipers over a Sports Box Scrivener. You don't see it, you know, being a guy in the middle with a bubble, and then, you know, 2 other guys picking units to buff. So,
well, the Sports Box Scrivener still only targets 1 unit.
Yeah, the Sloppy Bile Piper doesn't, right?
Call for 1 count. No, you still only pick 1 unit in his 14-inch bubble. It doesn't affect more than 1 still.
Okay, sorry.
So, yeah, it's just weird, a bit funny. But yeah, you still only pick 1 with him. So sure. The reason is, the reason for the double Bile Piper as well, 150 is expensive for them, but I do think you're going to lose 1 quite quickly most of the time at the moment. So you just, you know, you've got 3 of these epic buff characters. You got 100 Plague Bearers. You don't need any more.
Yeah, maybe get to the 1970 point and you could buy a Palisade or something. But you haven't really got much casting anyway, because, you know, your Great Unclean only casts 2, doesn't he? None of those guys are casting.
And purposely, because I think in the current meta, I think spending points on spells when Teclis is going to be everywhere is just a bad idea.
Yeah, rough. Yeah, you're not into chancing that at all, are you?
Yeah, I'm really not into it. And ideally, I only want to cast spells that target my own units as well. So the Great Unclean one's got Blades of Putrefaction, and that is good.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And then the other one you have just subbed him out. The second one's
actually,
right?
Yeah, the second one's actually my favorite army. To be honest, I like the second one better. Yeah, basically. The Great Unclean one, comes out. The extra command point comes out, and 6 Plague Drones go in. So
complete move away from magic, no reliance on that. Everything you just said's gone, and we're just going to say these guys are buffed them, and we're off, aren't we?
Yeah, yeah. So you lose the Great
Drone damage is very good, I guess.
Yeah, the Plague Drone's damage is super good. Like, if you get the buffs on them, now the thing is that they're fast, but they're not super fast. So the Bile Pipers should be able to keep up with them with their 14-inch range. Yeah, they just hit like a truck. You know, you give them mortals on 6s and +1 attack, like they're just gonna murder things. Again, it moved more away from the spells, because that Great Unclean one, if you play against Teclis, he's never casting a spell. It's getting unbound every turn, right? And also it gives you 1 unit that is faster than the rest. Plague Drones aren't fantastically tough for their points, but they're not tough for their points either. Like, they're a good unit. Again, they fit in the tally band, so it's still a 1-drop list. It's still very fast. You lose the belt. Like, Great Unclean ones for 320 points, I'm not that into them, really. They give you the bell, which is great. They give you a spell, which is great, and they don't die. Like, no one with any sense will ever waste time trying to kill a Great Unclean one, but they don't do enough for 320 points, in my opinion. Like,
fair enough.
With that setup. So I much prefer this. It moves away from the spell altogether. You don't have Teclis problems, or indeed Krug problems at your spells being unbound. And you've just got, you know, you got 145 wounds, of which 130 have got disgustingly resilient, you know, and other stuff.
Yeah, if we hopefully these get uploaded as podcasts at some point, like these lists are 3 units of 30 Plague Bearers, a unit of 10 Plague Bearers, you know, the 3 Heralds, and then one's got 6 Plague Drones on, and one's got a Great Unclean one. And a command point. In a command point, in the Taliban and Nurgle. So, you know, big, lots of bodies lists. Yeah, the Plague Drones, like you say, they're not going to run off on their own. It's not like some turn 1 alpha threat from them, is it, right? They're going to, like, move up with your army and then probably cross your lines, turn 2, stay within range of the buffs that they need and that.
Yeah. But also they can. I mean, you know, it's not beyond the realms of possibility for them to charge turn 1. So people do have to account for it a little bit. Or if you give the other person turn 1 because you're 1-drop, they are going to hit their army, and you're going to put you're going to put all those resilient wounds in someone's face, kill a bunch of stuff, and then have a wall of hard to kill things with a wall of 100 Plague Bearers behind them.
And these are both 1-drop?
Both one drop, yeah.
So what do you think of the new Warscroll Battalion that was in it?
I don't really. So it's got two units.
You bring a unit of 10 back.
Yeah, you get a unit of 10. You get a unit of 10 plague bearers after a unit dies. But the main problem with this for me is that it's number one. It's got 2 units of plague bearers. 2 units of plague bearers in it. So not 3. So it's not getting your drops down as much as I would really want it to. And +1 bravery is the command trait. Like for me.
Yeah.
Like just not doing a lot. The Taliban's just so good. I mean, these old battalions from these old books letting you just take everything and be 1 drop, especially with an army like this, where on missions where it wants to go first and push all its things onto the objectives, so you can never get them off before it's too late. It can do it. And on missions where it wants, because it hits hard now, where it wants to go second and force the other person forward and then slam some stuff into their face, it can.
Yeah.
I
think these lists are super efficient, super focused on doing what these guys do well. And like you say, half these good choices in the meta as well. Nurgle, you could do a load of different stuff though as well, right? Like,
definitely.
If you want to, if you want, like, you can take your tally, you can take your thricefold still, and buff all those guys. Or you can take the battalion we just talked about, get all, and you can fit a great mix of units in, and it's not just have to be a load of players. And I still think that these characters are so powerful that whatever mix of guys you take or own, or you want to paint hobby wise, I think like you can make so many good Nurgle lists.
You can.
It's not just about that.
As the problem with these guys is that obviously they only target demons, right? And the Scrivener only targets plague bearers.
Yeah,
so you're kind of limited in what you can do with those. And if you run Thricefold, you've already tied up a lot of points in characters, right?
Magic, unfortunately,
already done that, and it's magic based as well. The Beasts of Nurgle Warscroll got an update as well. Which they are 120 points a model. 8 wounds, 5 up save, disgustingly resilient, and they've got some okay attacks now. Not really worth the points. They could have been a bit cheaper, but they've got some cool abilities, so they can retreat and charge. And when they retreat, stuff takes D3 mortals on a 4-up. And also when they charge stuff, it takes D3 mortals on a 2-up for every model. So you could certainly have like a sort of little unit of one of these, like tying stuff up and then retreating, and maybe they don't always die.
No, completely respectable. Like, they got some great buffs, and I think it's nice that from a competitive point of view, it's maybe made the faction a little bit more interesting as well. Do you think that this is better than taking X number of Blight Kings in whatever combination of units then?
I do, yeah. I think a
bit of on the spot one there, because that army is very good at doing a very similar thing to what you've put together here, isn't it?
Yeah, it is very good. Yeah, I think the difference is this hits harder where it needs to. Blight Kings, the problem with them, they have tons of attacks, they get a rend off the Blight Cyst, etc. But they aren't very good at. They still don't do that much damage. No. They're not very good at killing stuff with good armor. When they lose the Lord of Blights, they lose the disgustingly resilient, which you're just going to lose them all the time in the current meta. Plague Bearers get mega use out their -2 to be shot right now.
Yeah.
So I think all things considered, although I think that army is also still great, I think the Plague Bearer army is probably a little bit better overall, and certainly better in the current meta.
I think what you said earlier about being able to pick the buffs that you need for what unit you're trying to kill makes a big difference. Like Blight Kings, you roll your dice and like, do I kill them? With these, it's like, okay, actually, like I need attacks, or I need the rend, or I need the mortals, and you hopefully will say like these 30 will kill what they need to. When you need them to, remove the thing that might actually cause you a load of bother. So that's cool.
Yeah.
Well, we spent a good chunk on Nurgle there. They're going to be a big deal. Like, they really buffed the faction with those guys, so I think they're fantastic.
Yeah, and not that much chat about them online, surprisingly either. Maybe not. I don't know which parts of this book leaked exactly, but I'm pretty sure all of it did. I'm surprised there hasn't been more chat about them, because I would say they're the biggest winners out of this book over Lumineth even.
Yeah,
like,
adding more to the existing army. I could. Yeah, interesting. I hope maybe get behind that. Like, interested to see what you think of the Lumineth afterwards. Okay, so next up, the other faction here that got some help got a little bit of another look at was the Cities of Sigmar. You're a fan of Cities of Sigmar, Ian? So they got, what was it, 2 new cities or just 1?
Exciting, just 1. So they've got Settlers Gain, which is a city in Hish, where the Lumineth teach them everything. Like, the humans are always the bottom of the rung, aren't they? It's like the law for this is the Lumineth live in crystal cities, crystal houses and towers high above the city, while the humans all toil beneath them in, like, you know, the pits below. Basically,
it's like one of those sci-fi shows where the world's over and you want to get up onto the spaceship in the sky where everything's nice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, the Lumineth are just teaching some dumb humans about magic a little bit. So pretty much this follows all the normal Cities of Sigmar rules, except you also, as well as Stormcast in the army, you also get to take 1 in 4 as a Lumineth Realm-lords unit as well.
So you make 4 cities units, you get 1 of each. Or
so you can take 2 cities unit, 1 Stormcast and 1 Lumineth in every 4 units in your army.
Okay.
Which is, if nothing else, super cool from a point of view of, like, what a weird army you can make with, like, interesting stuff. If you take the competitive side out of it, like, the mix would just be awesome, you know, and painting them all up to all look like they're from the same place.
Yeah,
would be, like, super cool. So yeah, I love that. The allegiance abilities, not that fantastic. So this city's, despite the fact they talk about magic a lot, it's actually got, normally Cities of Sigmar has 3 spells and 3 artifacts and 3 command traits. This one's got 6 artifacts, and one of the first allegiance ability is one of your collegiate arcane heroes gets an extra artifact, and you get +1 to casting rolls for collegiate arcane wizards as well, which is basically the guys on the Luminarchs and the battle mages, pretty much. Not fantastic, especially because the artifacts are not very good. And then we get a command ability, which is Elven Training, right? So a Lumineth Realm-lords hero spends a command point. You don't take Battleshock tests for Settlers Gain, Free Guild or Collegiate Arcane units. Wholly were an 18 of that hero. Now, there are no Collegiate Arcane units in the game that take Battleshock tests, so I'm not entirely sure what that is there for, but maybe we're going to get a unit of mages soon. I don't know.
Okay, cool.
I think it's more likely to be in a typo.
Yeah.
So yeah, they only make Free Guild immune to Battleshock as well, and I think that's because the city is humans and elves, even though we're still allowed to take them.
Yeah.
Right. So other stuff. So command traits. They've got your standard Cities of Sigmar. Every turn you roll a dice on a 4-up, you get a command point. Cool. One of them makes your general fly, which is kind of okay when it's on hurricanes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's nice. Decent. The last one is weird. You generally get +1 to hit and wound in melee, but -1 to save rolls in melee, which I don't think you're ever going to be taken in this army. But
he's a furious fighter.
Ooh. Yeah, it is. It's called Raging Outburst. Yeah.
Okay.
It's because he's been tested by the elves so much. He's really short-tempered because he's getting tested all the time.
Beaten all the time. Yeah. Classic.
Then we've got artifacts. So there's 6 of these.
Elves just mocking you, like, parry you.
Yeah, laughing at you. So there's 6 artifacts. They're not the best, unfortunately. One is called the Heartstone. When you die, you roll dice on a 4-up, you come back alive with 1 wound. So obviously pretty decent on a hurricane or whatever. Then we've got the silver-plated one, which lets you cast an extra spell, which is the other one that's decent. Yeah. The rest of them are not very good. So there's one here, which is the Stone Spirit Armor, which gives you a 6-up ward save, and you ignore spells on a 5-up as well, which is okay. But there's so many ward saves in this army, and the battalions built around them, that half of that is a waste. Right. So I could see potentially taking that just for the 5-up ignore spells, depending, but the other 2 are probably better.
And you're gonna have quite a few artifacts, aren't you? In this, is that right? Are you gonna have 3?
You're gonna have 3 basically. Yeah.
Better to take something out from a realm then, but you can only be from Hish, can't you?
Yeah, you can only be from Hish. Yeah, you're
not. What their one is?
Nah, I don't think you're going to be taking them realistically. Okay. So then we got the spell laws. Now again, this is random restrictions that didn't need to be there. You can have one of these for every collegiate arcane wizard. So you can take Lumineth in your army, but you can't give them a spell from your lore, which just seems arbitrary. Like,
okay.
Right? Also, there's only 3 spells. Also, they're not very good, unfortunately. So one's Drain Magic. Cast on a 6, within 12 inches. All wizards get -2 to cast, Dispel, and Unbind. So the same as Solar Flare from Lumineth. Which is all right, but, you know, Lumineth put units into combat and cast that, whereas this is actually on wizards who don't want to be in combat. Second one is Shield of Light. Pick a unit wholly within 12. They get a 6-up ward save, which is... there's plenty of spells in the game that give you a 5-up ward save when they do that. Also, this one's only 12 inches. Also, it's in an army with loads of ward saves, so that's kind of redundant.
Yeah.
And the last one is Illuminate. You pick an enemy unit within 12. You get +1 to hit when shooting them with missile weapons. This is good, but it's only got a 12-inch range. So pretty poor lore, really, especially given they get +1 to cast rolls, and their best artifact lets them cast an extra spell. It's a little bit, yeah, a bit of a letdown really with the spells. There that could have made these good, but their battalion's good.
What a weird city like that is. It's like spell casting city, but
it is a little bit. So the Warscroll Battalion is called the Zintil War Magi. Now this is 1 battle mage on foot, a Luminarch of Hish without a wizard on, and a Celestial Hurricane with a wizard on, right? Okay. Now, this is all focused around the Luminarch. It's a named one. It's called Beacon of Intellect. When you roll to hit with its laser beam, you re-roll the dice. So it hits on a 2 until it's taken damage. So it basically auto hits with its D3 models. And its aura of 6+ ward save becomes a 5+. That's what you're taking this for.
Yeah.
It's very, very good. So there's 2 things out of this. Number 1, you can look at Settlers Gain like, I'm just going to take this so I can play that battalion and get some Lumineth in my army, because the casting is relatively poor. The other bonuses are relatively poor. The allegiance abilities are relatively poor. But a bubble of 5-up Feel No Pain, that's always on. You don't have to cast. No prayer, no spell is super powerful. So that's really good. And it's units that you don't mind taking either, you know.
Good units.
So, generally quite good.
Another good box set as well, because they're web store only them, so it's nice to see them in the stores and you get 2 of them, and that's a desirable unit.
That's the best box set that's come out of these. You know, I would definitely be like snapping them up to get those. And remember, both of those kits build both as well. So if you're just doing you want to just do an army with 3 Luminarchs or something like a standard sort of build, you can grab that as well. But that's really good. So yeah.
Do you like this then?
I'm very much on the side of the battalion is really good. 140 points. The battalion is like super good. The only problem being again magic right now, like investing into magic maybe a little bit problematic. But yeah, I mean Hurricaneum and Luminarchs are just great units in general. They're super efficient. They do mauls. They cast spells if you got the wizard on. They've got a buff or multiple buffs. They buff casting, they buff units. They do everything. The only thing wrong with them is they are very easy to kill. They're 11 wounds with a 4-up save. This bringing them a 5-up ward save is great. This actually solves the problem with these units. And they're 2 of the most, other than the survivability, I want to say 2 of the best buff pieces in the game, probably, because they don't roll to do their buffs. You know, especially the cheap ones without the wizards are better. Like 220 for a Hurricaneum, just blanket +1 to hit, +1 to cast for all your wizards. Comes with a range mortal wound nuke. Like it's
good
amazing.
Good amount of damage output, good amount of wounds. They're a good buff piece, mostly because the cost is half decent as well.
So once we get a 5-up save on them, which really helps with their main issue, it really does get good.
Well, it's inspired you to write a list for them at least as well.
It has, yeah. Now,
so
I've been toying around with these kind of lists for a week or so now, really. Something I haven't looked up yet is in all these battalions in the book, it specifically calls out that some of the people are unique named characters, which I think is supposed to mean you can't give them command traits and artifacts.
I think that's correct, yes. Yeah.
So this list was written before I sort of got onto that. So you'll see there's some mistakes in there. But essentially, the composition of the list is a battle mage, a hurricane, and we're a battle mage on the back, a scenario lore seeker, which is the new Lumineth unit we'll talk about in a little bit, a free guild general, 2 units of 30 crossbowmen, 2 units of 10 handgunners, 3 units of 3 ether wings, and the Luminarch of Hish. And then we've got the Zintel War Magi Battalion, a Balewind Vortex, and a Sanctum of Amintoch. So what we're basically doing with this list is we're like not bothering taking any melee troops, right? And we're going down the line of right now in the game, save and throws are kind of crap because there's so many mortal wounds out there. So to some extent, just raw bodies is the best way of like staying alive. Raw bodies with 5-up saves from the Zintel War Magi is a good way of staying alive.
Yeah.
Because we're playing, we've got Stormcast units, we've got access to 3 units of Ether Wings, which can go and take objectives for us. They might not hold them, but we can certainly use them to score points, as well as the Lore Seeker, who can also take objectives. With the Balewind and the Sanctum of Amintoch can make them quite tough to kill as well. So we've got a unique, unusual way of scoring points, while the rest of our army just shoots stuff.
Yeah.
Right. So we've got 60 crossbowmen that are going to be with the general's command ability and the hurricane, and they're going to be hitting on 2s and 2s. Between the command trait strategic mastermind and the fact that we've got our general's adjutant in there as well, which I think the battle mage can still be. You're allowed to make. It doesn't say you can't make unique characters adjutants. They just didn't exist somehow. Okay. So we got loads of command points, so we can easily make them all re-rolling 1s to hit when they're shooting as well, like with no problem. So we're on 2s re-rolling 1s, on 2s to wound with 120 crossbow shots if they don't have to move. So it's not it hasn't got the biggest damage output in the world or the most bodies, but it's got a good number of bodies. It's got good saves. Obviously, it's got mortal wound output from the Hurricane and the Battle Mage and the Luminarch as well. We can use the Balewind to stick the Mage on because he's from Azir. He can cast Chain Lightning, or we can use it to stick the Lore Seeker on to keep him alive when he's on an objective.
Yeah.
There's just a bunch of stuff we can do. The Hurricaneum's got the silver-plated wand, which means it can cast both its Warscroll spells, so which it's never been able to do before outside of brain issues. Outside of the other city that lets you cast 2 spells a turn. Hollow Heart, yeah. Wow. It's obviously too early. So you can cast both spells, so you can get off your Comet and your Chain Lightning. You've got so many spells that you can potentially come out of this. You can also put the Heartstone on the Hurricane if you want to, so it comes back on a 4-up if it dies. There's a load of stuff, but I don't know that this is like the most amazing list in the world, but it's a super interesting concept of just taking stuff using Ether Wings and the Lore Seeker and just actually just being able to use a gun line like a gun line without auto losing the game.
Yeah, it just buys you a bunch of time to
shoot stuff, basically.
Yeah.
You're not going to hold the objectives, but you can. Yeah, it's interesting. I would love to have a try of that list and try and have a little bit of a mess around with it to see if it can be good. Obviously, it'll just die to Nurgle. Won't do any damage. But yeah, so yeah, goodness. I really rate the battalion for cities. I think the city itself is relatively poor. But obviously, if you want to take Lumineth units, which I haven't really talked about, I haven't done an army list for that. Obviously, you can also take Lumineth Wardens and Sentinels, like super good units. They don't get a spell, but they're going to be casting Power of Hish on themselves anyway. You can get that really good Lumineth shooting in. What you can do is obviously you can buff that Lumineth shooting a little bit with your Hurricaneums and stuff. Not that the normal attack does a lot. But yeah, it's
cool.
pretty good. I think that will definitely see play in Cities players, of which there are 2 in the world who bother. So me and Simon Hall will probably try that.
I see Cities lists, and I often end up just these worse versions of them in one of the more powerful cities, you know? Like, I see the same units going around in circles and not being in Hallowheart or whatnot. So,
that's my problem with the Lumineth part of this city, is that if you're going to put enough stuff in the army where you're going to take like 2 or even 3 Lumineth units, Lumineth's allegiance abilities are so good and give all their units so much stuff, and their spell laws are so amazing. Once you've bought 3 Lumineth units, why are you not just playing a Lumineth army at that point, other than being a Cities player and wanting to play it? But as you can see, it made me buy some. So.
Yeah, because they have the Great Nation, and then they have the like Venari, Scanari, or whatever, and they have those like 2 layers of rules on top of the Warscrolls. A lot of the rules aren't on the Warscrolls, are they? So. Yeah.
And it's the thing they do again. You know, all the stuff in that army is all locked to Collegiate Arcane. So your elves don't get any +1 to cast bonus. And I know that's thematic for what the army is doing, but the Lumineth in the army don't even get the army's bonuses. The artifacts, incidentally, in that list as well, can only go on wizards.
Okay.
Weirdly. So even if you were to take, you know, something else, you can't even give them an artifact. You can't give the Free Guild General an artifact or whatever. You know, you can't take... they can only go on Collegiate Arcane wizards, so you can't give Lumineth heroes artifacts. So it's all just a little bit... If it was just a bit less restrictive and the bonuses applied a little bit better, and maybe they'd given them a good spell law, which is the real shame of that, I think. They could have been super good. But as it is, they're good.
Okay. Well, I think it's time we get on to the headliners. I'm not sure that Nurgle aren't the headliners, but it's time we get on to the headliners of the show, and that is Broken Realms, Lumineth Realm-lords. So, time to look at some of these lovely Lumineth books. We are going to presume some knowledge of Lumineth already. They've been out a long time, so we're not going to be going through anything that was out before. We're going to just focus on the stuff in Broken Realms. But obviously, we will highlight some rules and things and any interactions that go with the older stuff. We're going to go through them in our normal order, so we'll go through a whole bunch of the Warscrolls and all the rules and everything, and we'll have a look at some of those on screen and talk you through all those. And then at the end, we've got some lists and obviously our takes on all this as well. So. Without further ado, let's get into it. So we're going to start off with the Warscrolls, and the first one that we've got today is the Shrine Luminor. Okay, sorry if I catch it out on this one, Ian, with the book, but the Shrine Luminor is the scenery piece. So this is obviously a huge addition to the army. It's free. Everybody's going to have it, no matter if you like the new stuff or not. So this is a really, really good piece of
so good.
So good.
It makes me so angry as well. The garrison of the Shrine Luminor can be a single Lumineth Realm-lords hero. Why didn't the Seraphon one say that? Not Lumineth. Why didn't it say can be a single Seraphon unit? Why is everything in the game got to build a garrison it? Raging. But yeah, it's a little thing that you can garrison.
Yep.
Which is interesting.
Yeah, does some great stuff for your character. It's going to give them +1 save. It's going to give them -1 to hit. And it's going to give them a bigger range, I presume. I haven't seen the model, but, you know, it's probably going to have a bigger base than it's 30 mil. So it's going to give them a big lot of reach out the board. It's going to give them a lot of line of sight. Also gives a lot of line of sight back to that model as well. But, Garrison is very strong.
Yeah.
Now, also, once per turn, you can reroll 1 casting, dispelling, or unbinding roll for a friendly Lumineth Realm-lords hero within 12. And then from the second battle range, if it's got a Shrine Guardian, you can add 12 to the range of that ability. Yeah. So,
which is another lots of heroes, though, interestingly, so it doesn't let your units reroll casting spells. But yeah, you know, nice side benefit. And then once a turn, you can use a command ability without spending a command point. So, you know, free battle shock immunity, free whatever. It's good. Like when we had the Seraphon one come out, you know, if all it said was you can garrison this terrain piece yourself, it would be good. That'll be all they needed to do. But yeah, with the save and throws that this army throws around on its characters, this is like super good for them. For me, this is like you stick a Cathalar in it. Like, if you at its basic level, if it's just hanging around your army, you stick your Cathalar in it, so he's harder to get off the table and you don't lose his abilities.
Lore Seeker gets stuck in it. Pretty
much. Well, that's it. I was gonna wait till we get to the Lore Seeker scroll to mention that one, but
yeah, no, fair enough. Like, but what a terrain piece! Like, absolute must buy for Lumineth players, and that's it.
Very, very good. Yeah. Okay. So
next up is we're talking about all the stuff, all of this is your Metricas, all the Vanari stuff first. So Lyrior Uthral.
Can we box this guy together with the Lord Regent that comes after?
Yeah, he's up next. He's up next as well. So
I mean, this guy is 210 points.
I'll check for you, but
6 wounds and a 3-up save. They've got this really good ability. So the Lord Regent's basically the same stats. What, 210?
Yeah.
So you get -1 to hit them, and they get +1 to cast their spell while they've still got some Ether Quartz. Right. So you just don't want to use your last Ether Quartz with them, which is fine because they're a character. It's not that big a deal. They've also got Sun Metal weapons with like 5 attacks, 2s and 3s, Ren 1. So they do some damage, and they've got this spell called Greater Power of Hish, which is really good. So it casts on a 7. You pick D3 friendly Luminth Realm-lords, hopefully with an 18, and they get the Sun Metal weapons Power of Hish buff. Because everything in your army has another spell to cast, this is basically like he casts D3 spells. He casts this on the other things. They don't have to use it. They can cast their other spells that they've got, which is great. On top of that as well, obviously, if you've got a key unit that wants to Power of Hish itself and fails, you've got a second go at getting that unit to Power of Hish for the turn. So these abilities are really good. Importantly as well, 3+ save, and he's on a horse.
Yeah.
Like, so many more characters in the game that move 5 inches could be good if they just give them a horse.
Like the name one's 16, I believe the other one. Yeah, the other one's 14.
Yeah, he's a bit faster. So Lyrior Uthral on top of this, basically he does the same thing, but he comes with a laser beam pretty much. So he's got 1 attack, 2s and 2s, Ren 2, D3 damage at 18 inches, and it's also got the same profile, 1 attack in melee. And if you hit Chaos Demons, where it does 3 instead of D3, but. So also as well, start of the game, you roll a dice. If you haven't got Teclis on a 2-up, you get a free command point. But
it's the start of your hero phase, so it's everything on a 2+ you get a hero phase. So I think that's very good. But the costing is we're talking 150 for the next guy.
Yeah, so the Lord Regent at 150 is a really good model, and I think particularly if you haven't got Teclis in your army, which is a questionable decision, but particularly if you haven't, this guy's he's going in all of my lists. 150 points for a quite tough to kill model because of his Purest Ether Quartz, with okay melee attacks, moves 14 inches, and casts D3 spells basically for your army, is just like super good. The named one, again, all the named characters in this book are locked to Emetrica.
Yeah, loads of them are Emetrica. Is all of them?
Yeah, all of them, I think. All the named characters. And they do this in a lot of books. They did this with, Stormcast. Everything was Hammers of Sigmar. Like, why do they always pick one faction and give it a bunch of name stuff? Like, surely you'd spread them out and give people who play other factions something to play.
I think, obviously the big guys Alarath as well, but... Yeah, so the reason we're mentioning that is when they go into that great nation, they won't get the benefits from that great nation, right? So, if you wanted to take him in, is it pronounced Saya?
In Saya? You don't get the extra Ether Quartz.
Yeah, exactly. So, but your Metrica is good, and maybe if you're not taking Teclis, you want access to all the techie spell stuff. I could see your Metrica being okay. So if you're just a quick summary for those, from the old stuff, say you get you the extra Ether Quartz and you're a command ability to use them twice in the phase, and your Metrica gets you an extra spell for all your units when you're selecting them. So it's tough.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it's a tough one. I think for the point, I mean, if you want
to say it's better, but I think we will talk about all the great nations here because when we get to that section, so maybe I'll hold off a little, but there's a lot of good ones in this book. They've done well with that.
Yeah. I think he's getting a laser beam and an extra command point is sort of fine. Like if you were going to buy a command point anyway, but it depends on your drops. Like you don't want the command point at the start of your first hero phase. You really want it like at the start of the game if you're going to be buying one. So if I could see taking them, the command point offsets his cost if you were going to buy one anyway. But realistically, I think the normal region's better. And
the other guy can't carry your command traits and your artifacts and things like that as well. So, which some of the stuff does suit having on these characters as well. That's cool. I want one question.
Go on.
Just a quick one from John Stevens. Can you benefit from look how safe you garrisoned? Yeah,
you can.
So you can like Lumineth, KO in the boat next to a unit, -2 to hit. It's a character in a boat. So same thing here. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So the other thing about the Lord Regent as well is if you are playing CR, which is still probably arguably the best nation in my book, the purest ether quartz, he can actually use one of his ether quarters and then he still keeps his purest ether quartz ability. Yeah. So he's a no-brainer for 150 points. The other guy is like highly situational.
They've done okay with the decision there. I think the other one's maybe a little bit too much this time. Sometimes when they do this multi-kit thing and it's like, okay, this one's 300 and the other one's like 310. Like in this book, the mountain guys, they're so close in points that you're probably a bit mad not to take the name one in this as well, isn't it? So,
yeah. Just I just want to correct you on something there. I thought I might have been misremembering something, but you think Emetrica is a different nation. Emetrica is the rock nation where you get extra
the rock
and rend and stuff.
What's the other one called?
Is it Zytrech? I forget the names of them all.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
So the problem, this was my feeling when I read this and saw all these Emetrica. All these heroes Emetrica, and Emetrica doesn't want to run any of these heroes.
That's where I'm wrong. Yeah,
it's all about the stone and the Alarith stuff. If you're going to play that, you're going to run all the Stone Guard and all those kind of things. And none of the heroes that are in Emetrica really want to go in that army. Maybe, arguably, but it's a weird nation to lock them to rules wise. But obviously, fluff wise, it makes sense.
Yeah, the game's driven by story, isn't it, over everything else? So that's just something we have to live with, unfortunately. So
yeah.
Okay, so let's read the next war scroll.
Yeah.
You all right with these? Yeah. I like him. I just echo it. I agree. I think this Vanori Lord is amazing. I like that he can unlock. I like that he's got like a War Scroll spell he picks, so that's okay. And not a War Scroll, a Legion one that he picks. But then you've got like 3 units with 3 different spells that you've picked on them probably. Yeah. And if you roll well, it unlocks you all those decisions as well. Yeah. So I think this guy's amazing.
You know what else I like about this guy as well is he moves 14 inches. He's got a 3-up save and you get -1 to hit and base. He's tanky enough. Yeah. And if you do something like stick a Sanctum of Amentoch around him, for example, he can actually run off and like hold an objective, or he can go and, much like when you have the Liege Cavalos in OBR, because he was a good solo hero as well, he can go off and have a fight with something somewhere on an objective on his own because he's fast enough. If someone just doesn't quite leave an objective unguarded guarded enough, he can go and get it, and then he can tank it with spells, which is
the lad in cover,
cool
2+.
Option. Exactly. He's really good.
No, sweet. So next up, we've got the Vanari Banner Blade.
Yeah.
Less good.
Less good. Yeah, so I mean, he's +1 bravery for your units, where you've already got a Cathalar to solve all of your bravery problems. And yeah, if while they're fighting, they get +3 bravery, great. Like, but bravery bonuses are not good enough at competitive. You want to be immune to battle shock. Bravery bonus rarely does anything unless it's a throw-in ability on a character with something else. But he's got his banner. He plants his banner once a turn, or he draws on the power. Sorry, once a battle, I should say. You roll a dice for every model with an 18. If you roll equal to or less than the current battle, I'll only take D3 models and get -1 to hit. Now, it's a powerful ability. But when you want to use it, which is turn 1 or 2, basically in this game, it's probably not going to happen, and it's only once a game. So
man is weak. He
is just not very good. Yeah.
So I've got an interaction with him that I quite like. So the Cathar's ability to bounce bravery shock, battle shock tests onto your opponent, right?
Yeah.
Fine when you fight them, but when they shoot you, it's their turn, and are you doing any damage to them? Okay.
Yeah.
To trigger them taking a battle shock test, right? Mm-hmm. This guy's ability can be used in your opponent's turn. So if they drill a unit of your guys, and then you can trigger this, and then you can bounce the Cathar thing back over. All right, and I'm going deep, right?
I was going to say, this is me reaching.
Yeah. No, but, yeah, I'm on the lookout with Lumineth to do damage in their turn. When it's not fighting, right? Because it's so strong. If you can start to make your opponents take battle shock tests and do that thing, like they shoot 9 of your wardens off, or they go into one of your bigger units, and you can start bouncing the battle shock back over. It's pretty good. But yeah, this guy's it's not great.
But you're not buying this guy to do that.
Option.
He's I think this guy. I think there's a lot of scrolls in this book actually that are just you can see they've been toned down, because if they'd have not had like one of the clauses on them, they would have been super good. Like if this was every turn, you can see them have given them this every turn, right? Would have been mental. Or if it had a bigger range. I mean, if you're going to make this only once a game, it could probably be like 36 inches or something. So at least you can catch things with it. But yeah, he's not good.
Should we highlight that mechanic now? They have put a lot of cooldowns in this army. They've done a hell of a lot of once per game stuff. Most of it causes -1 to hit.
Yeah.
And a lot of abilities are based around the battle round and the roll. So that's a theme that we're going to see throughout this edition to Luminth Realm-lords. So
yeah.
Next up is the Vanari Star Shard Ballistas. Well, artillery piece comes out. It's a gun. All eyes on guns.
All eyes on it,
isn't it? Like, so let's have a look what this guy does.
Do I need 6?
Is it bent? How many attacks does the battalion give it extra, or does it improve its hit roll?
In the hero phase. Yeah. So this is Repeater Bolt Thrower 2021, right? So 2 attacks, 3s and 3s, 2 Ren D3 damage. These are 100 points, 30-inch range. Messenger Hawk, you pick a friendly Realm-lords. Basically, if you're within 24 inches of a friendly Realm-lords hero, you +1 to it, pretty much. So you're going to be on that almost all the time.
Yeah.
It's got a 6 up, feel no pain, and it gets an extra attack if it doesn't move. Right?
Yep.
Blind and Bolt. So once a battle, you can fire Blind and Bolts. Anything that you hit with it, which you're almost always going to hit when you shoot anything with this, gets -1 to hit until the end of the turn. So interesting.
When you're going aggressive, right? I'm gonna go into that unit. I'm gonna fight it. Let's go. So
yeah, a unit can't be dazzled more than once a turn either. So you can't stack this from the ballistas. So for 100 points, 3 shots, basically 3 shots, 2s and 3s, 2 Ren D3 damage is acceptable. It's not the highest damage in the world, but because it's 2s and 3s, which is very good, and 2 Rend, it's like quite consistent. And yeah, I think these are okay. The Blind and Bolts obviously is not amazing as a -1 to hit ability, but on the turn you charge something. I've seen people say, "Oh, this is useless because it's only your own turn." It's not. You fight stuff in your own turn. That's the way the game works, right? Yeah. And particularly with this army, not everything you hit just evaporates either. So it just stacks up with all the other ways you got to keep your elves alive. So I really like this. For example, if you're charging in a unit of horses into something, like they're going to kill a bunch, there'll be a few left. It just means you're taking a little bit less return damage. I think these are okay for 100 points. I don't think they're setting the world on fire. The battalion for them is 120 points. The Star Shard Battery. And it's got to be 3 of these minimum. So they basically go up by 40 points each. And you have to take a Caligrave as well, which we'll get to in a bit, which is not the most amazing character. That basically changes the ward save into a 5. So that's not very good either for these. I like them because there's a bunch of lists you write with Lumineth where you don't have enough points left over to take something that is less than 120 points.
Yeah,
and
when they're not so because they're not better than Sentinels. Okay.
Well, I don't know. I think like the damage output,
they're mathematically not better, right? Like points for point.
Mathematically, if the Sentinels get their spell off, the Sentinels are only a very tiny bit better point for point, because you got to remember the Sentinels are 140. That's a big difference to 100. Like 40% more expensive. If the Sentinels don't get the spell off, one of these is better. The Sentinels also don't have a -1 to hit thing. But, you know, I think the real difference is this is one body, the Sentinels are 10. And, you know, if you're going to...
Can I just say something? I'm going to go back a step. These have 4 shots a turn in the battalion.
No, the battalion ability replaces that one. So the first... It just
found the line.
Yeah. So... I think these are the only reason you would take Sentinels over these is for the even further range and shooting out a line of sight, but mostly the fact you've got 10 bodies. When you've got 10 Sentinels holding a back objective, they're going to hold it, whereas one model maybe won't against just like anything that gets near it. But the damage output wise is fine. And these are much better than Sentinels at killing things, you know, where the mortals aren't super effective as well.
Yeah, that's the swing back, right? I'd say that. But that's okay. I mean, they get their lot. I don't know.
40 points different.
The math side, I didn't think that these compared to Sentinels at all. But
if they get the spell off, you know, like the Sentinels.
Oh yeah.
Like obviously
that's what I'm saying, right? Spell off, you know. If
they get the spell off, but it's not much better. It's only like it's a 0 point something average damage better. Because what you got to remember, the rest of the Sentinels attacks do like nothing, so it's only the mortals that go through. So it's like, do you want?
They only need that, don't they?
Well, yeah, but it's like, do you want 3 mortals going through, or do you want like 4 damage at Ren 2 going through? It's not that much different, really, depending on what you're shooting. And these are 40 points less. It's a huge points difference. So I like them. I think that, if you're going to put 1 unit in your army to stick on a back objective, I think I would probably rather have Sentinels. But if I didn't have the points for Sentinels, I'd quite happily take one of these to do that with. And plus,
I guess I'm looking at my comparisons, like if I want to shoot and I buy 5 of these in the battalion, right?
Yeah.
And then how many Sentinels I get for that?
Yeah.
Like, it's not close.
Well, I wouldn't buy... Yeah, but the battalion... I don't think that's a fair comparison, because the battalion doesn't make them any better at shooting. So if you want 5 of these, just buy 5 of them. I mean, they're artillery anyway, so you can't take 5 of them.
Yeah, so I didn't even cost... In fairness, I didn't cost a battalion. And I done 5 of these compared to, 36, Sentinels or whatever. So
yeah,
that's where I was at. And I didn't think personally it was close. But
yeah,
I did write a list that was a lot of both.
Yeah.
Which I thought was okay. In fairness, as well, we'll get to that a bit later. I haven't got that on a slide, but I'll total it up. Yeah. Look, I don't know. My strongest point doing combat mats, no, but I think I can divide some things up and add them up. I thought these were outclassed by them a lot, but it was the points thing for me. It was the 140, the 100. It was how it works in a list, how it pans out on paper. That was going to be the swinger for me. So
yeah. Well, yeah. I can tell you, I don't know what combat mats you've done there, but these aren't as bad as you think they are. These are better on a point for point basis in raw damage output than Sentinels. Easily. And obviously, if the Sentinels fail to cast their spell, these are just better. Even for 100 points, they're better. So the main thing is the bodies. Really, that's the main difference.
And being able to see your target.
Yeah, and an extra 6
and do mortals.
Well, it depends whether Ren 2 is, against many targets is approaching immortal in terms of efficiency. you know, in terms of at least getting through things with saves. But you know, mats on these, like the mats on these are very competitive with Sentinels for the points. So, and the -1 to hit thing, I would argue that the -1 to hit thing is probably better than most of the things that Sentinels do, or at least competitive with. I suppose the difference is if what you want to do is snipe heroes, Sentinels are obviously better because they just don't care about negatives to hit.
Yeah,
they mortal things off, you know. But yeah, it's bodies is the comparison for me. Are you gonna put 10 men on a back objective or 1 ballista? You want 10 men. If you're taking a load of them to spam to shoot, I think these are certainly a good option.
Yeah, sounds all right. Cool.
Let's move on. So, in terms of what it gives to the army, though, you know, they're close enough to Sentinels that it doesn't really necessarily add anything to the army. It's just a little option. Like, really, it doesn't make the army significantly better than it was before. It just adds a new option.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, you know, the save isn't great, you know, but they can go in cover quite easily. I thought that the spellcaster from Dire Chasm was okay. You know, might be able to bubble up, give them -1 to hit from shooting. I don't know, but yeah.
But I mean, the other thing we're missing as well is obviously the archers can cast a different spell if they want to as well, whereas that can't. You know,
and they got an aftersave, maybe 5+ aftersave as well. You know, so they don't deteriorate either
as quickly.
As quickly as
well. That's all. Yeah.
So well, that's all right. Yeah, you know, you lose 4 Sentinels, and you're a lot worse, aren't you? Splash damage and whatnot on these is doing nothing. So yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on to the next one.
Venari Blade Lords.
Oh, I was so excited for this unit. I love Sword Masters.
Why are you not excited no more? What happened?
No, well, I'm regardless of what they do, I'm just saying I was excited for them. Let's see if they're any good. So only 120 points. So this army seems to be able to mostly get its units appropriately costed. Its 2 wound units appropriately costed.
Yeah.
4 up save, 2 wounds, move 6 inches. Sure, yeah. So bodyguard ability, scenario within 3 inches on a 2 up. This unit can take it instead, which is okay, I guess, because so many of the heroes are really good.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's their attacks, isn't it? What you're really looking at on these to see if they're worth that point. So they can either have perfect strike, which is an auto hit, 2+2 wound, 2 rend, 1 damage, which is nice and all if you really want to make sure you get a little bit of damage through. But 120 models getting like 4 and 2 damage through, 120 points of models is not spectacular. No. Flurry of blows is quite good though.
Mm-hmm.
They got a 2-inch reach, and every model gets a number of attacks equal to the number of enemies within range, which, you know, can easily be 6. You know, no problem at all. Be 4, which means that your 120 points of models can be putting out like 20 to 40, 3+3+ no rend attacks, which again is slightly above rate for these, but they're 120 points for 5 models, and they don't really do a lot else. So
what is that's perfect hit roll.
I think that's a flavor. That's a flavor ability in it that you will occasionally maybe do a thing with. Yeah. You know, it's only one attack, 1 damage in it. You know, it's and they ignore spells on a 4 up, which is a throw-in ability.
The big use though is the wound bouncing, right? So I think we'll keep this in mind. We talk Law Seekers later, protecting your characters. Like, that is really good. It's 2+, just really consistent. So 120 points, just 5 of them in your army, given 10 wounds, you know, to spread around your characters or whatnot. Like that is good.
It is, like, Keep your Cathar alive, like keep your Venari region. No, not your Venari region. Keep your Cathar alive. Keep your Law Seeker alive if they can catch up with him. You know, etc. Luckily, they have got a way to catch up with him. That is very easy. But yeah, it's a good thing to have access to. You know, we see these like Saurus Guard in Seraphon, that kind of stuff. You know, the ability to give your important heroes, extra wound bouncing is always a good thing to have access to. So I wanted these. The reason I say I was excited, I wanted these to just murder stuff with swords, and that's not what they're really good at.
Yeah, like take loads of them. Would you like to have seen them in? I would have liked to have seen them not in this elite elf role, in the one down, like, you know, not having wardens with spears, having guys with swords.
Yeah,
you know, I thought these would be like a one wound, you know, 10, 20, 30 model unit, and we'd see a lot more of them on the table. I'm disappointed they went to the elite side, but
not wrong with the unit. Yeah, I just wanted an army of guys with swords.
Yeah, I just wanted something that wasn't the wardens, really. You know, another.
Yeah,
I think overall for me the battle line issues in this army is pretty frustrating. So I would have liked to have seen something else. So
can I just show a question from Darren? He said, "I've only seen people say that these are amazing or awful, and nothing in between." I think the reason people say they're amazing or awful and not an in between is actually because they are exactly in between. Like, you don't take them for any particular given thing, but they are a great option if what you're doing is fragile and vulnerable to like being shot off or taking mortals, etc. You know, they're a really good option for that. And again, you're not going to take them in every army, maybe not even in most armies, but having access to something like that from a point of view of the whole army is just a nice thing to be able to have access to. Because, you know, a lot of armies just have like a whole bunch of units that all do the same thing. You look at Cities of Sigmar, they've got 5 different melee units that hit really hard and you know, reasonably expensive and elite. You know, changing some of those units over from just being another killer unit into something that does something new is a good thing for army build. So this is, although disappointing for me, wanting an army of sword guys killing everyone, better for the army, probably.
Yeah, like I've seen this comment a lot as well from where's my mouse gone? From Arcus. The perfect strike should be damaged too. It doesn't half feel like that, doesn't it? But
it definitely, you know, does feel like that. I think, and you know, I don't think that would make them overpowered either. It would still be only okay. But I think I would rather it not be damaged too, just so they haven't got yet another unit that does something unique, amazing that no other army has access to.
No, fair. But, yeah, I think we'll see a lot of these. I think you will see them because of the wound bouncing. But yeah, disappointing from a combat profile point of view and whatnot. So Well, the flurry of blows isn't necessarily that disappointing, I don't think. Depending on what you're fighting, where the metas are. You know, if everyone's just running 30-man or more bigger units, you know, 40-man units with weak saves, these can actually just have crazy damage output, especially given how fast elves can be with spells and stuff. These can get like right into a unit, you know, like maximize the amount of attacks, and 5 of these could put out 40 attacks. You know, they could murder things as well. They're decent. Good things like that. You know what? I'm bringing another point here from Raj. Like this was my reaction, Raj, as well, when I seen the artillery. Like, he says, if these are 100 points for the artillery, then what happened with all the city's artillery? Like, why is this artillery 100 points? Like, every other artillery in the game is paid way more for.
Yeah, it's costed properly at 100 points. And so is the Stormcast Ballista. Like, there may be even, we're not raving about them. They may be even a bit too expensive to be amazing. But then you look at stuff like Plague Claws in Skaven and all the city's artillery and that kind of stuff. And it's like at some, and even Skull Cannons, just to be a bit mean for a minute, you know, all those things that are artillery for some reason, probably the same reason that we always see units of 3-4 wound monsters at 160 points. They've got a formula somewhere for how they cost these things, and it is consistently wrong in almost every book. Yeah, and then just we get one like this where it's not.
Yeah, I like your attitude you took to that there. Like, you know, obviously I'm saying, and Raj saying here that why are these cheaper my units? It's, you know, too much. These should be more or something like. But yeah, you probably have everything else needs to be cheaper, doesn't it? But anyway, I don't want to cling on to
more tech crawlers as well into that equation there.
Yeah, they should be 100 points each, right?
Yeah, they should clearly be 100 points as well.
Yeah, you can only have 4, so okay. The Calligrave, then. Talk about this guy. Yeah, he's another weaker of the heroes. You know, classic foot hero stat line, move 6, 5 wounds, 5 save, bravery 7. He is 100 points though, so he is cheap as the characters go. So this is the one that fits in the artillery battalion as well. Now, what's this guy got? Right, he's got
a spell called Erasure, which is an enemy hero within 24 inch. They take D3 mortals or mark them for Erasure. When they get hit by Erasure again, they take D6 mortals. Now, there is no world in which D6 is better than 2 D3s. There is literally no reason to ever do the second mode of that spell. Like, my mind boggles at how the maths get worked out on these. It's cool.
It's cool, right? It's cool, but
make it D6 plus 1 at least. If you're going to go with this mechanic, which is unique and interesting, at least make the second mode better than casting the first one twice.
I listened to Russ Veal talk about this, right? He had a reach moment as well. MMO vibes come back to me. If you need to spike someone down, right, you can do the D6 mortal wounds. I was like, oh, that reminds me of WoW and that so much. He's like, okay,
I don't think
we're marking that guy up in a minute. I'm calling a spike on him. We're gonna drop him because
like if he's got a heal or something, so you don't want to do exactly. Then he heals and then another. If that happens anywhere in the world ever. In a game where it matters, please someone let me know, and I will give you £100 JustPlay voucher if you can prove it.
That was a good shout.
But he brings another spell, luckily, and all their spell laws are dumb amazing. So that's fine.
I think at the points is a thing, but all the other ones I'll class them. So I have to cling on to him too long. Next one.
Let's talk about his ability though. Yeah, he missed his ability. So his ability is super interesting. So. You pick. He can't cast a spell when he uses this ability, though, right? Yeah. It's once a game. You pick a point on the battlefield, anywhere on the battlefield. You roll a dice on It's a 5 up plus the number of the current battle rounds. It's a 4 up on the same one. Yeah. For the rest of the battle, Lumineth Realm-lords units within 9 of that point get +1 to cast, dispel, and unbind, and are immune to battle shock, which is a massive buff. It does multiple things, but it's once a game and you don't get to cast your spell. So realistically, if you want it to go off, you're probably going to not cast this until turn 3, or you're going to try it on turn 2 if you're taking them. It's a good ability, though. Complete battle shock immunity. It's only wholly within 9, but, it's interesting. I like, he's 100 points again. There's not a lot of things at that price point in this army, so a lot of the time with the stuff you want, you don't have a lot to spend it on. So I think he's he's not great. He's actually like bad, but he's 100 points. Not a lot of people get a wizard for 100 points anymore, and he's got an ability that sometimes you might use. So
he's okay.
Acceptable filler.
Sure. Next guy, we don't need to talk about this chap. He's the Scanari Lord Seeker. Calligrave every time, right?
Yeah, so while everyone was really upset about the Huracan named character flying around, this guy was the thing everyone probably should have been getting upset about. I think a couple of people have got onto it after a few Twitter posts by odd people, me included. But so this guy is 160 points, which is expensive, right? But he's a wizard. He doesn't have a Warscroll spell. Doesn't matter for this army, really. He's got a range 12 laser.
His stats are improved as well, though, right? He's got 6 wounds and a 4-up save. He's a combat wizard, isn't he, by the looks of things?
He's a Tyrion and Teclis wizard combined. So he's got a laser beam staff, 2 attacks, 3s and 3s, 2 Ren, D3 damage.
Boss.
And in melee, he's got 4 attacks, 2s and 3s, 1 Ren, D3 damage as well.
Perfect for standing at the top of a waterfall.
Now, bear in mind, they also get the Blades of Leap and Gold this army for +3 attacks. So he does actually do some damage in combat if you ever give an artifact, right? If a model with an artifact of power within 3 inches of him dies, you get a command point. It's probably never going to happen, but wouldn't say no to it. But his main ability is
you can combat that with a rage if you spike a guy down with a
that's what it is.
Get him in range as well.
If you're more than 9 inches away from friendly models, he's got +1 save, so he's got a 3-up save now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of setting him up, you can set him up at the start of the first battle round before determining who's got first turn. Luckily, we choose that in this game. We don't roll it, so that's not really that big a deal. You know what's going to happen if it's you. You can set it up on the battlefield anywhere more than 3 from enemy units and not in your territory. If you set him up within 6 of an objective that's got no enemy units within 6 of it, you gain control of the objective, and your opponent can't gain it while he's within 6. So he counts as, I know you love counts as, he counts as an infinite number of models.
He's really good.
He
counts as more than 10 and 30, so he's great.
Yeah, he's good. He's and there's a bunch of things that obviously play into this. So he's got a 3-up save when he's on his own. They've also made him a wizard, so he can cast a Balewind. He can cast Sanctum of Amentok on himself. He can also cast Chronomantic Cogs and give himself save reroll as well. He's got a bunch of ways to make himself hard to kill.
Yeah.
His setup rules, though, are interesting. There's a lot of nuance to them, which I think people have skim-read this a bunch of times and not realised. He's not that easy. He doesn't just steal an objective off your opponents, right? It only works if the opponent's already got no models there, right? So if they leave a back objective with no models next to it during setup, that's probably a game you were going to win anyway if your opponent makes mistakes like that. So not that big a deal. The real use for the main use for this guy, so there's a couple of things. The first use for him is just sticking him on a midfield objective and then just not worrying about it, like unless the opponent, because he's only a single hero, but you have to commit real stuff to kill a guy with a 2-up save, Mystic Shield himself. You know, he might have a 5-up.
Hit behind the wall, use terrain to his advantage. He's single guy, he can be on top of a pillar, you know.
Yeah.
There's loads of things you can do with a single character to...
You know, yeah, exactly, yeah. So just one from Tristan. Tristan said, I wish you could give him that golden blade. You can't give him an artifact. I think you can, because he's
maybe
unique.
You can't give him that artifact. No, maybe he means like that artifact is locked to like Venari or, you know, something like that. So it's like a combat weapon, isn't it? And he's a wizard.
It's not. It's a scenery specific weapon. No. I think Tristan's saying this because he's unique, but he's not named. But being unique doesn't prevent you from having artifacts and command traits. Only being named.
Sure.
Pretty sure. I think unique just means you can only take one in the army. It's being a named character that prevents you from other stuff. But I'll check that.
Unique might be that you might be making name character up.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Well, either way, it's not a big deal if it doesn't. But I'm relatively sure unique just means you can only take one of the model. Doesn't mean you can't take stuff. Either way, you're probably not going to do that regardless, but you could. That's the point. But yeah, so you know, he can take a midfield objective and he can hold it. He gains the objective on setup, so they've got a teleport spell now in this book, so you can teleport him. He can grab an objective. You can stick bodyguard blade masters next to him. You know, so he can't die very easily. So even if they kill all your blade masters, which isn't that hard, it's hard to kill him.
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of things. And, you know, just the fact that for 160 points, he's a wizard with a laser beam, good in melee, quite tough to kill. That's not bad on its own either. So he does a lot.
He's amazing. Like, I think him hiding trying to hide in the terrain pieces is super good as well. So trying to get him.
I've seen this mentioned, but I don't think that interaction's possible because the terrain piece has got to be more than 6 inches away from an objective as part of its setup rules.
Does it have to be 6, not 3?
Yeah, the terrain piece has got to be 6 from an objective in its own setup rules. If you check the actual setup rules,
has it got its own ones?
Yeah. So
right.
I don't think that sticking him in that terrain piece actually works. So I think maybe people have just misread that, or I could have misread it. Possibly. But yeah, so I mean, the main thing is though, he's that aside, he's tough to kill. Balewind or a Sanctum of Amentok.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
If you get a couple of turns, you know, he's got a good save and throw. He's got a piece of ether quartz. He's got an army backing him up. You know, that ability is super good. It's just very strong. And this was the guy I had in my cities list before as well. You know, so stick him on a middle objective. If people want to come forward and get him off, you shoot them with 60 crossbows, etc. Just a super strong ability. Super good. Auto include? Question mark.
Yeah, probably right.
I think he's borderline auto include in pretty much every Lumineth army because that ability is just so bonkers powerful. Like, I think when you do lists and you're struggling for points, there's a lot of temptation to like take him out, and find points for something else. But it's just too good, like
it's good.
It's hard, and that means if you're taking Teclis, that's 820 points of your army gone.
Yeah, if you take two of them.
Investment.
Yeah. Sound cool, good, great. Well, next guy.
Yeah.
What a guy.
Yeah, very good. Alania and Elithor.
Yeah, these are how many points are these? 220?
I think, are they more than I thought they were? 260 I had in my head. 260 they are, yeah.
260.
Yeah. Yeah, so super interesting.
A lot of rules.
They've got a lot of rules, yeah. 3 up save and 8 wounds, so to start with, not great wound efficiency.
No,
points. But 4 attack, 2s and 3s, 2 rend, and damage equal to the current battle round, which is potentially a lot of damage, but it's a 260 point model, so that's that's sort of fine. Once a battle in the shooting phase as well, you can laser beam 12 inches on a 2-up, a number of mortal wounds equal to the current battleground. Now that's good. 10-3, 3 mortal wounds to everything in a line on a 2-up is probably what you're going to be doing with that.
Yeah.
And they got a couple of extra throw-in melee attacks as well. It casts
which aren't terrible, but
yeah. Cast 2 spells a turn, unbinds 2 spells, gets +1 to overcast spells and unbinds.
That's nice.
You can give it with its own Warscroll spell a 5-up ward save.
Yeah.
So it sort of like approaches being a bit more survivable for its points. And then the super interesting thing that these... So it's a double caster that's decent in melee from turn 3 onwards and is like acceptably tough for its points. Only moves 6 inches though. At the end of the combat phase, you roll a dice if the model's fought in the phase. If the roll is less than the current battleground or less than the number of wounds allocated to the model, you heal up D6 wounds and then take it off the battlefield and teleport it somewhere else 12 inches from enemy models.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not sure what the use is in that, really. Like, you don't really control it very much. Gets them out of combat when they've taken some wounds, assuming they didn't just get womboed and die. But it's very interesting. When I read this, I just felt like this was the kind of unique, unusual rule I would like to see on more characters rather than just a battle shock immunity bubble or a -1 to hit bubble or something.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And it's quite
I
cool.
like that take on it.
The last funky thing they do is they can be allied to any order army. And if they're within 3 inches general at the start of the hero phase on a 4-up, you get a command point. So yeah, 260 points, double caster wizard, acceptably tough, good in melee from a few turns into the game. So like you're gonna hang back, cast some spells, maybe, like do a bit of support, and then turn 3 you're gonna get involved with some, pretty good attacks. You get, maybe get a free command point half the time in half your games. Super interesting model. Like, I don't really know how to rate it.
Look, it's like, I don't want to spend my energy on it. It's like, I want to get excited about this one, right?
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah.
I like the model. It's got some really cool rules, lots and lots of cool rules. But it's like one model, 260 points.
Mm.
And it's in a faction that's just got Warscrolls for days that are amazing.
I think if this was in a lot of armies, you would be like, "Oh, I'm going to put that in. That's going to be me general, or that's going to be one of my characters. I'm going to put it in. It gives me magic. It gives me melee." This army's so good, and Teclis particularly is so good. Anything like this, you're just like, "Where am I ever fitting it?"
I know. It's just,
and it's like a tier 1. I want to say it's like a tier 1 Warscroll probably. And
really, I think it's so many points, but.
But it's a double caster, like it's a double caster with decent wounds and does decent. Yeah, it does a lot for its points.
Yeah,
not one focus thing, but quite a lot. In a lot of armies, what I mean is, I think you would quite happily play this.
Yeah,
but yeah,
fair.
Yeah, I don't like the way this army has
damage with that sword later on.
Yeah, I don't like the way this army has models standing on top of other models. That's a bit weird. Like standing on the Sphinx and all that kind of stuff.
Stuff standing on other things.
Yeah.
Start of the Hurricane, which is like the big bunch of new. not new temple, whatever they're called, to come out. So this is the Hurricane Wind Mage. So yeah, look, another one cast wizard, costed 120 points. Now this guy's got a movement to 16, 5 wounds, 5 up save. So fast, it's going to keep up with anything you've got going around. Really easy to reposition. Big part of this is his access to the wind College of Magic in this, isn't it? So
which gives you a teleport. I mean,
that's why you take this guy.
That's why you take this guy, right? His Warscrolls pretty meh. Like his spell is like, just a spell's weird. It gives him a shooting attack in the next shooting phase, 2 up D3 mortal wounds. It's relatively crap.
It's a bit better than it's better than like a nuke though, right? Because he's so fast.
Arcane bolt. Yeah.
It's like, I'm out of range. Or actually, I'm going to go and move and kill that thing now. So it's an okay nuke.
From that point of view, it's good, but you're never going to cast it.
It's probably unlikely.
Wind leap on your kangaroos. Just by being near him makes them 16 inches and fly, which is nice if you're taking kangaroos. And he's only got a 5 up save, but he's got a 4+ against shooting, and if you roll a save of 6, you do a mortal wound back to the shooting unit. So his Warscroll is relatively mild, but he has access to the air spells.
He does.
Talk about air spells now?
No, let's just roll them in with the other ones. I don't think it's worth getting into now. We'll get to the spells when we get to that point. I think he will get highlighted his role as we get to some other stuff, in that he's Hurricane, he's a Hurricane hero, he gets the Wind Mage stuff. So I think there's a role for him unlocking some other stuff, but as a standalone Warscroll, not all that great. So
16-inch move again though, like the same as the guy on the horse, the Venari Lord Regent. You just picked up
Grayson here. I'm stoked on this guy. Love the fast wizard. I agree. Playing some of the Zeech ones that are just crazy fast in the past, it's so handy.
120 points. Like, there's so many wizards that are like 110 points and they're just stuck on foot. And they don't do anything, they're worse than this guy's discipline or whatever. He's 120. This guy sums up the army for me. They've got a lot of Warscrolls that are undercosted by 10 or 20 points. And when you multiply that across the army, it's a lot of points. 16-inch move is a big deal. So, Anyway,
I think we said before, this army feels very costed having that you had Teclis in every army.
Which is nice for them.
Hurricane Wind Charges next. So, most exciting thing, right? By the law, Seeker. These have got a lot of stuff. Well, this is what people are up in arms about, maybe, or how many layers of rules there are on these guys, how much stuff they do, and there is no doubt they do a lot of stuff. So he's 130 points cavalry unit. So again, at that 90 points cost, move 14, 2 wounds each, 5 up save. So nothing special going on there. They've got a Wind Charger bow, which is only range 12, 2 attacks, 3s, round 1 damage. That's a fine bow. It's got a combat attack as well. They use it at a melee range of 3, which is important for tricks and whatnot. 1 attack, 3s, round 2, 1 damage, and then they've got some claws on the mount as well. So the tree runners. So they got a leader with an extra attack. They got standard borer for rerolling battle shock tests. You don't get cover modifiers for attack made with the Wind Charger bow, and when this unit makes a move, it can pass across terrain features in the same manner as a model that can fly. So there's not a lot to talk about on the Warscroll. But we will get deep into these when we get into all the abilities that the wind, the temple or what Great Nations and all that gets. So, and these can be battle line in one of the Great Nations as well, which I think is really interesting. So, because I don't like the battle line situation in this army. So I think their Warscroll is, although it's again a lot of the Warscrolls in this book are just egregious. It's just like they've been given all the stuff that is everyone really wants to see units have, like 2 rend on your bow in melee. Like why does a shooting unit get 2 rend? Like almost nothing. Like guys with massive giant swords have 1 rend. Why is a bow 2 rend? Like I know you can say it's a headshot or some rubbish or whatever, but it's just it's not overly powerful. There's nothing wrong with it,
But why have all the units in the game, other units that could have stuff like that, not got it? And that's why what makes people upset about this army is, I think people are mostly upset about this army because it's actually quite well written, and so many armies just aren't. I don't think that, much like with the artillery thing you mentioned before, a lot of the stuff in this book is actually costed what it probably should cost. There's just so many units in the game and so many books where you just can't take them because they're just 30 points too expensive. And this book doesn't have that, which is why this stuff's so upsetting to a lot of people, I think.
I think they need some sort of combat attack to make their rules interesting, though. All the other stuff that goes on.
I'm not talking about balance at all. I'm just talking about how annoying it is that a unit of kangaroos with bows has a Ren 2 melee. Like, it's like, you know, they just got more, like someone like Tristan's just said in chat there, it's like they just got more effort put into this army, which is why everyone's upset about them. It's not that there's anything necessarily unbalanced with it. It's just so true. And guess what? Like, that's going to happen when the range has got 20, 30 box sets to sell, right? You know, like but then they must assign resources to this army. Like they've got to, right? There's just so much stuff that they must want to shift. I don't. There's a bunch of new kits for Slanesh come out, which are also amazing and better than these models, in my opinion. And it's like someone just phoned in the Warscroll rules one day. You know, like literally zero effort, particularly, you know, the joke ones, the Slangors, which are incredible models. I know you don't particularly like them, but I absolutely love them. And the Warscroll was written in 20 seconds probably, and not even, you know, it's awful. It's just, it's the difference that you see in the books, and you know, particularly if you're a Slanesh fan or you're a fan of one of the other armies that doesn't get the treatment that this army's got, it's easy to see why you get upset, and it's fair to be upset.
I agree.
Telling people that they shouldn't be upset about it. I tweeted about this last week, actually. Telling people they shouldn't be upset when some army gets loads of love and effort lavished on it and a bunch of other armies don't is not fair. You know, like all armies should be good. There's no negative to making every army good. It's only good for the game, good for players, good for the hobby, good for everything. You know, I wish they put this much effort into everything else. Anyway,
I just. I don't know. I don't know how you know me better than most people know. You describe my stance on things like this. I just take it in the stride type thing, don't I? I think like I'm probably a little bit too relaxed about some things sometimes. I'll just go, oh well, that's just how it is, you know. But
I mean, I'm the same. I also do. I just also enjoy the conversation about it as well. I think I get on with it, carry on playing, do whatever.
I'm not saying I'm right to just get on with it. You know, it's just. Maybe I'm lucky playing a game, workshop game, that I've got that attitude, right? Because I'm not going to get everything I want. So
and I guess that's the thing. You know, everyone's entitled to their opinions about this kind of stuff, and whether you're upset about these things or you like them or whatever, we can all have discussions about it and be big boys. And I think I've got onto a slightly different point here, but I really dislike when you see on Twitter people saying, "Stop moaning about the new book. If you don't like it, don't play it," or something like that. It's like you don't shout people down for having opinions, like particularly negative ones. Like negative opinions in this community tend to get shouted down quite a lot. Like you should love everything that comes out. That's not the way the world works. Equally, there's no need to be overly harsh about stuff. You know, like, and I was guilty of that in the past, was being too overly harsh about stuff. You know, sometimes you do have to accept it, but there's no harm talking about it. Like, talking about it doesn't hurt anyone. We're all big boys and girls. Right, sorry, chat. Yeah, let's carry on.
I forgot about this guy.
Severeth.
How to forget about it?
Yeah.
I was like, well, there's not much to talk about with these wing guys, yeah? And now it is a Warscroll.
Yeah.
Like, okay. It's got movement 24.
The highest movement in the game, I think it is.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
I don't know if it's everything higher,
Yeah. 10 wounds, 5 up save, bravery 10 for whatever reason. Got a bow, which is very good. 18-inch range, 4 attacks, 2s, 3s, rend 3, d3 damage. Now, I think we need to do what we've done with the regions here, maybe. Do we need to bring the other one in? Do you want to
no, it's less relevant. Yeah, it's less relevant.
A bit less. I don't know. I actually compare these quite a bit because of the points difference. But Okay, then a melee attack, which is decent at range 3 again. So that this plays into these unit strengths. 2 attacks, 2s, 3s, rend 2d3 damage, and then another range 3 flavor sullen attack as well. But all its melee attacks at range 3 there as well. Okay, it's got a 5-up shrug. And in addition, you subtract 2 from the distance enemy models can pile in to a minimum of 1 when they were within 3 of this model. Okay, so the stuff that I've alluded to here it is now, right? Like that melee range is 3, that being within 3, not being able to be attacked back, that plays into it with the wind charges too. Another very good ability, and they're very into interacting with pilings right now, haven't they? Someone's put that on the whiteboard in the office, and everyone's golf clapped each other on this one, haven't they? They love that now.
Stuff, and as well, the Huracan.
Think they've done all right with the piling stuff so far?
Yeah, these ones
seem to strike first.
I think, the thing is with these, and this goes for Nurgle a little bit as well, the piling abilities on these, like the Huracan ability is when you pile in, you don't have to move closest to nearest enemy model. So when they charge, they can fly and pile an extra 3 as well, which is a really big deal. And I think that the problem with that is the kangaroos and this guy use that to do some tricky, cool stuff. They can never release a good Huracan combat unit now, ever, because then it will be too good. You limited themselves on what they can do in the future. I think the same goes for Nurgle as well, is that they can now never release a Nurgle unit that is good, that has a good war scroll in combat, because if they do, the Bile Piper, etc., will make them bent. And, that's maybe fine, but it does sort of.
And again, I think that's fine. Like, when do you all of a sudden say, "Oh wow, here's a new Nurgle unit," or "Here's another Huracan"? I think often when these guys are done with a range, they're done with a range, right? Like for how often they move on to something new in the development, don't they? It always feels to me an odd character every now and again. Like you've seen the Wind Chamber, it's done.
Yeah. So carry on with this guy's war scroll then.
All right, well, go one back. Living Cyclone next. Okay, so roll dice for each enemy unit within 3 of this model. I have to read these because I can't remember. He's got so many rules, I can't remember what each one is. On a 3+, they suffer a mortal wound. So that's okay. And then they subtract 1 from hit rolls. Yeah, okay, right. So roll dice. Every enemy unit within 3 of this model on a 3+ to take a mortal, and it's -1 from hit rolls. Okay, so that's really good.
That really makes a charge.
Yeah. Really good.
So it's good. So for him himself, he stops them piling in as much. As a similar thing to the Nurgle one, though, if something's like 3.1 inches away, it doesn't get -2 to pile, so it can still get into him, but might be blocked by its mates in front. So he's got a 3-inch melee.
He has to charge as well, which means he's gone within half an inch at some point here as well.
Yeah,
right.
But he can pile, can't he? He can pile away. Yeah, he can pile to be at his max 3, then they can't pile into him properly. So not only are they limited in how many models they can hit him with, they've also got -1 to hit off Living Cyclone some of the time as well.
It all plays into them being active to activate 2 units as well when they choose to fight in the Lumineth, doesn't it? So a lot of this stuff would be impossible or very difficult, or you get interrupted by your opponent, but being able to pick 2 and get some of these tricks off is really crucial here as well.
The other thing I like about the Living Cyclone ability is he doesn't have to be there for it to stay on. So he can charge a unit, give them -1 to hit. Then when you pick 2 units, you charge your wardens into them as well, or whatever. Then when you activate your 2 units, he goes, runs away, 6 inches, like the opposite direction, and your wardens have now got another -1 to hit from his Living Cyclone. It's like a little bounce in and out, give people minuses to hit.
No, it's good. Scour, start the charge phase, pick 1 faction. Oh, okay, this one, right?
Yeah, this is.
I know, right? So start the charge phase. You can pick 1 faction terrain feature that's within 1 of this model. If you do, you can't charge, but you roll a dice on a 2+. The seeding rules cannot be used for the rest of the game. I don't get why. He's got good things in combat, like Living Cyclone is good.
Why didn't it stop him shooting? Why wasn't it a real cost to use this ability? Maybe he should have stopped shooting. Yeah, but maybe his charge stuff's better than shooting stuff. Or why did we need to putting another ability in the game. Like every other ability that does this, like goes off on a 5 or something, right? Why did he need a 2? And why do we need to make people's cool terrain that they spend money and time painting just turn off? It's just not there's nothing wrong with the power level of the ability, right? Nothing wrong with it from a balance point of view. It's just not fun. Like, not a fun ability. But anyway, he's got it. There you go.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Hey, Hawkeye. Oh, right. Me mouse. So, I mean, I'm not going to get into it, but I can see 2 mouses on my screen because of the way I cast, and it's driving me mad. I can't find my mouse pointer when I'm doing it. When people move Seraph, can they please do the Tasmanian double noise, please? Yes. And do you think you'll see his base get put on a spinny thing so he spins round? You know, a little battery, and he just does circles.
So, I want one. That'd be a great idea. Does that mean when people do them painting showcase videos where it's on a moving platform, he'll be double spinning?
Oh, mate, it'd just be chaos. So.
Spinception. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, you don't give up a lot to do that, but maybe the charge stuff is really good that you don't want to give it up. Oh, that's a good question. ZZ Gram.
Yeah. Oh, do you want me to? I'll save it. Who needs terrain the most? Gits. Yeah, you know, like against some armies, that ability is not a big deal. But against some armies, it really turns off like a big thing. Like against Beasts of Chaos, they build the way their army does damages because of the headstone, and Gits give you the units back. And when you start going down the list, you realize that the armies this hurts most are actually the worst armies, and like most of the better armies, the more recent terrain tends to do less. Ironically, this is also,
I would say the ones you highlighted there can plan their game and their army building around it. Yeah, a lot.
Yeah,
I think Gits can deal without it. I think it's okay. Beast of Chaos is bit worse maybe. And there's other more powerful ones than the 2 we've mentioned, though, right? But it's not as reliant
about
the army.
Yeah, it's not built around it. Yeah. Like JP's just said in chat there, it started the charge phase as well, so you can do it in your opponent's turn. I doubt that's intentional.
Just get that hopefully FAQ.
He's got another ability like this in a second. Now I don't think.
Yeah, there's a bit of that, isn't there, around that's worded wrong.
So then he's got Sear and Desert Winds. So when he makes a move, after he makes a move, you pick a unit that he's moved across on a 3-up. They take D2 Mortals. Yeah, okay, sure. He is going to move across a unit every turn, though, with movement to spare. Spirit of the Wind, end of the shooting phase. This is the other one. It doesn't say yours. Probably is meant to be yours. He can make a normal move at 12, can't run, but he can retreat. And he can retreat and charge in the same turn. So he's fast. If you charge him, he's going to run away from you. Well, if you move close to him, he's going to run away from you at least. And he can retreat and charge in the same turn. And if
he's moving over a unit twice, right? For 2/3 plus D3s, yeah? In the same turn. Move and then move them again.
Yeah, he says that in his brackets, yeah. And then in the hero phase, if he's within 12 of any friendly wind mages, you can heal D3 wounds allocated to him, which is all right. Like he's going to be too fast for the wind mages.
No, they move 16.
Well, what I mean is they're not going to want to go where he goes. Like if the wind mages follow him to where he's going, they'll just get killed. So they're going to have to stay with your army, whereas he's going to be off doing crazy wind stuff. But what I was going to say was, anyway, he can retreat and charge to get it, and if he really wants it, he can get it. He just might not have it all the time.
Yeah.
He's 300 points, and his damage output on his War Scroll is not incredible. He does a couple some mortals where he's moving across stuff, but not enough to make up 300 points. And for 300 points, he's also very squishy at 10 wounds. Although he's got a 5-up ward save, he's only got a 5-up normal save as well. So he's very squishy, and his damage output is middling. Does all his cool stuff he does, like locking units in combat and then running away from them before next turn. Maybe giving an extra -1 to hit debuff out sometimes, and occasionally blowing up a faction terrain, warrant 300 points.
He's hard. When I talk lists and some things up like that, I like these, and I'd like to do all the things we talked about. I need to do it. I need to see it on the table. I need to I need to experience this a little bit, this guy and all the win stuff, and see how much I can leverage out of it, really. I've had some things on my mind, which maybe we could talk about lists a little bit. I wish I prepared more lists to show, but we'll just have to talk through some of it together. But
I don't think he's good enough. I think his
damage is, like I say, consistent or guaranteed. Like, isn't, the dice roll numbers are good, aren't they?
He's got 3 Rens,
and his Ren's good.
Yeah.
Like,
but they're consistent, but very low for 300.
Low. Yeah,
he's like an assassin more than anything, and he's gonna have no problem shooting off, a hero, a small hero, or finishing off a bigger thing that's taking a little bit of damage off all the other range you've got in your army, which can't be forgotten. There's lots of other range in the army. He's got lots of tricks. He will have no problem again. A lot of armies now, you see units of 10 guys who are going to sit on a back objective. We talked about Lumineth archers doing it before. He'll have no problem killing them. Although he's only one model. If he leaves one alive, he won't take an objective off things. Like,
he does work. I was going to bring that point up as well. Like, he punches a hole in a screen. He works well for skirmishing against stuff, doesn't he? Again, consistent damage, but small. But in those situations where it's enough, you're like, I need to go and get that objective. And how much of my forces do I need to commit to deal with them? And you look at your dice rolls normally, it'd be like, I can't. These could do it, but I can't guarantee it. Where you can be like, I'll put him there, he will do it, and I can move on to doing something else.
He moves 24. So in real terms, in a game, no matter how much damage a unit does, it can't always be where it needs to be. He can always be where it needs to be, even if his damage is less. He is a very hard to rate unit, and I think undoubtedly his raw numbers for his points are nowhere near good enough. But everything else that he adds on, mostly with his maneuverability, forgetting the special rules, just his maneuverability, brings him up a lot, really. I think in a shooting method, I think he's bad because he'll just die. And I think right now, I don't think he's a good idea. But in a meta where there's less people, less guns on the board, more melee that he can just dodge, armies he can run around in circles. Yeah, he's certainly not a bad unit. I just don't think he's the right unit for today.
What do you think of this point by JP here? Is shooting is equivalent to 2 ballistas? So not maths or whatever, but let's say you're buying them. You're buying ballistas, you're buying heroes.
Yeah.
We're just buying him at 300. We're getting that hero, we're getting a ballista and a half, really.
His shooting's not equivalent to 2 ballistas.
No, it's not. But it's costing along with the hero that you need in your army. You're trying to put a load of shooting stuff together.
You don't need, I mean, I can see the argument, but I don't think it's the case. I mean, ballistas, you buy them for a 30-inch range and sit them on an objective because you need to sit something on an objective to capture it. And a ballista you throw in because it's 100 points and there's nothing else you can buy with the points. This guy's 300 points. And I think they absolutely...
I'm talking, we're buying ballistas.
Oh, if you... Well, yeah,
we're going for them.
Again, I think it depends what you're going to do. The problem, again, is this guy's got 10 wounds for 300 points and he's a single target you can shoot. And he's got to be in the danger zone to do his stuff. Ballistas don't. If you want to do a gun line or shooting support for your army, this guy isn't it. It's not what he does. He does less damage than the equivalent amount of points of ballistas, and he has to be closer to do it. Mm-hmm. So I can see what you mean in the comparison, but I don't think it's a valid comparison. I think it's apples and oranges, really.
Well, I could see buying a hero that can do a lot of stuff rather than just having like some wizards that there and he fits into your main plan, So
I'm thinking apples is what I'm saying. Like if you want to buy a hero that does a bunch of stuff but maybe has a bit less shooting, it's not the same as just taking ballistas just to stand there and shoot stuff. So
what about buying 2 ballistas and a wizard or him?
Depends on
2
the
ballistas
wizard.
and a Calligrave or him. That's close. No,
but you wouldn't buy a Calligrave on purpose though. That's so
you have to in the battalion, but
you have to buy 3 ballistas and spend 120 points on the battalion as well. What I'm saying is
I'm buying lots.
The comparisons aren't direct enough. I think if you're doing in the same way I put that cities army together before, if you're going to do a shooting army that's based around shooting, having him in your army as part of the shooting, who also gets you objectives while the rest of your army is shooting stuff, that's a thing I could maybe see.
Give up a ballista to fit him in because he does a bit of the role, you know, like, you know what I'm talking
I'm
there.
just not behind that comparison whatsoever, sorry. Not going to get me to compare this guy to ballistas. It just does different stuff. Just because the attack profile looks like it's got similar numbers on, like, it's just not a comparison.
I think you can justify his points when you want guns.
Yeah.
By losing them.
Yeah. Well, if you want guns in your army and you're happy with his output for 300 points, whilst also getting a mobile piece in your army, I can see that. Yeah. But I just don't think it does enough. In the same way that I don't think putting 3 ballistas in your army does enough. Mm-hmm. Just, it's got some okay output, but it doesn't win you games. It's just some shooting that is secondary to your main game plan.
Yeah.
And of course, as Joe's just made the point in there, which we'll get onto when we talk about armies a little bit. Oh, click the wrong one. Well, JP's is also relevant. If you take this guy, you're not also taking Teclis. And that's the main army building decision for this army is, do you have Teclis? The answer is mostly yes. Therefore, you don't get to run this guy at the same time, pretty much. Or you have no army to take anything with.
Yeah, it's not a comparison again there. It's just a points thing, isn't it? So.
It's just that, it's regardless of what the Warscroll does, what list does he actually go into?
Let's wrap the next one up then, who is the Hurricane Spirit of the Wind. So this guy's 250 points, okay? And he has a bit of a slightly worse bow, and that's it. I think his other.
Well, he loses Scour, and he loses the other ability as well. Go back.
That's the real stuff. Sorry, he got a slightly worse bow, but of course. Then he hasn't got
Searing Desert Winds. He loses as well. So
that's
right. For 50 points, he loses 2 wounds. He loses a rend on his bow. Yeah. He loses the ability to destroy faction terrain. Yeah. And he loses the D3 mortals once or twice a turn, which is the only thing that just about makes his damage acceptable, in my opinion. Like, although again,
I think it's okay for 50 points though. I think these two costed okay.
I don't
think you automatically take the other guy. I think if your army's building, you could take this one.
The other guy's your Metrica as well, which is another thing. Again, the other guy is forced your Metrica. So the Hurricane Spirit of the Wind gets stuff. Not heroes, these, incidentally.
Okay, cool.
Funnily, although Severeth is, but the second one isn't. If he can take an artifact,
so this guy's the hero. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, I'd not noticed that. I just went to check that now. If they've missed hero off his Warscroll, then that would be interesting. But maybe not.
It's the same as the Mountain guy. It's the same as the Mountain, isn't it? The name one's a hero. He's taking up that slot, but can't have artifacts. They've done that with this guy as well. We're going to do a name one, and we're not going to worry about what artifacts can go on this guy. So
yeah. I think if you want a model to do this role, I think 250 points on an 8 wound model is just insane. I just think it's far too squishy. The other one's the other one's got 25% more wounds for 20%. Like, it's not even the points per wound either. It's the absolute. He's a skirmisher. He's got to go in and out. He's got to do his thing and dance around. Sometimes he's going to take some damage. There's a difference between being alive, going back for your D3 wounds, or getting another round of shooting in and just being dead and off the board. And then mortals are add 30% to his damage output or something. Those mortals he's got.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't. I think I would have liked to have seen this one another 20 or so points cheaper before I started comparing them.
Do you want to compare them to ballistas for a little bit, or do you want to move on?
Yeah.
Okay. So next up, then, the Warscroll Battalions we're on now. Brilliant.
Okay.
So, yeah. Let's get on to these next. Oh, I need to change my little banner. Oi. Warscroll Battalions.
Yeah.
Hurricane Temple. This is a bit of a big all-in one. This one is 160 or 180. It's expensive. It is 180. So it's a lot of points. This. It includes one of the 2 characters we just talked about, Sereth or Spirit of the Wind, 1 Wind Mage, and then 1 to 3 units of the wind chargers. Units from this battalion wholly within 12 of a hero from the same battalion at the start of the combat phase. The models in this unit count as making a charge move in the same turn. So that is part of the Hurricane abilities, whereas they get to make a move, don't they, when they activate? Is that the word?
No, they always get it, but if they charge, they can pile 6-inch and they count as flying.
Yes, that's it. Yeah,
so it just makes them
bigger.
Like, yeah, it makes them bigger.
So
it's a great ability.
Go further away. It's really good.
Yeah, great ability, and also fits in probably a lot of the stuff that you would likely want to take.
Yeah,
if you're going to do this kind of army as well. So I think it's good. 180 points is massive, though, in an army that's already
massive, isn't it?
And yeah, like I think you could sort of auto build this into the new nation that makes stuff better in melee with their bows, and you could take the. I think this. Yeah, you could maybe do that.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a minute then. Yeah. So Hurricane Temples. A lot of points, but it does get you into that ability that you do really want. So, and it's like it can be a whole army in it, right? If you really wanted,
pretty much, most of an army anyway.
Yeah, most of an army. So it is a big drop down one for the drops. We talked about this one pretty much anyway. So it's just the Star Shard battery at 120. So I don't think we've got much more to cover on this one, do you?
Yeah, basically makes your ballistas a 5-up save instead of a 6-up. And it reduces your drops if you're going to take lots of them, because they do push your drops up quite a lot if you want to use a lot of ballistas. So reduce your drops, but it's 120 points, and you've got to buy a Caligrave. That is not would certainly not be your first choice of mage. I think if you're going to take 5 ballistas, or you can only take 4 ballistas anyway. But if you're going to take 4 ballistas, I could maybe see an argument for this. But I wrote a lot of lists with this in. But I don't think that I don't really think it's good enough. They're artillery, so you can only have 4.
Are they? Yeah, it is artillery. Yeah,
they are artillery.
Stupid rule they've wrote there. Well done.
Yeah,
in bigger games, it's not silly. It's just that we only play 2,000 point games. Okay, next.
Yeah, so I think that's not a great battalion, although I did try a lot with that battalion. Blade Lord host, 1 Venario scenario hero, so any hero, and 2 to 3 units of Blade Lords. You reroll 1s to hit if the enemies charged you. Not a very good ability, but it does get you a bunch of stuff low drop. If you wanted to take multiple Blade Lord units, it will get your drops low, and this is only 100 points as well. I had to check that. I remember this one being cheap. Probably not really gonna see any play, but also at least it's been costed fairly to maybe make it an option. I think what's funny is a lot of Lumineth armies you want that starting command point, and some of the battalions are cheap enough that you actually consider buying them just because you were going to get, and they've got so many good artifacts as well. Like that's one of the things I would maybe see a reason for them. So if Blade Lords do get to that point where taking them for combat is good, I could see that being played just for the giving you quite a bit of stuff for 100 points.
Yeah. Okay, so next we're going to look at allegiance abilities. Now, we've got actually the allegiance ability section is just the same as it was before, rules-wise. So there's not much to cover there. We've got to do the
they've added a bit. They've reprinted the whole thing.
Yeah. But there is a bunch of new rules for some of the factions here. So I can't remember how much of these are new for everyone. So Venari, we already know about Shine and Company. Are the command traits and everything just what they were before? Is that?
I've not actually checked. I haven't looked at this book since we last reviewed it. So I didn't actually read Broken Realms Teclis. I actually just read the Lumineth book.
Yeah, same. I can't remember if some of this is stuff has been in it already. But so look, Venari, they've got some command traits which we're never gonna see, right?
No.
So I'm not gonna move on. But then let's get some artifacts. Extra Aether Quartz you can start the game with. Run and charge in the same turn's another one. And the Sunstone is they can attempt to dispel one on a spell at the start of your hero phase in the same manner as Wizard, and attempt to unbind one spell in the same manner as Wizard as well. And you have 1 to the first to spell unbind the roll you make for them each phase. So nothing really exciting artifact-wise for Venari heroes.
No, nothing super. I mean, the +1 to cast is good. Like, they cast so many spells, this army, that's good. And don't forget that can go on the general who's casting your Greater Power of Hish to make a cast.
It's Dispel and Unbind.
Oh, not casting rolls?
No. Weird. It just makes the guy like be able to stop spells, some sort of.
It's weird that they always have these abilities that add an extra something, but they're always just slightly different to each other. It's always the same little block of text, just with a little bit cut out. Yeah, okay. Well, they're not great, are they?
Now, Scenari.
Yeah, this is where it gets good.
Yeah, so these have got a bunch of new stuff. They previously didn't have any rules really. It was like, it was one of the things that made everyone think we hadn't seen the full book, right? Was a big
the other
part
book was almost like a pre-release book or a preview book or something, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It didn't have the faction in it. It's a bit weird the way that's been done. But anyway.
So all Scenari get Deep Thinkers. So at the start of your hero phase, you can pick any friendly Scenari wizards and declare that instead of casting any spells in that phase, they will contemplate. And if you do so, in your next hero phase, when a friendly Scenari wizard casts the spell, it's just cast on a 9, basically, and that can't be modified. So not casting this turn. Next turn, I'm going to cast on a 9. Yeah. Not that good, really. I like to chance mostly to cast your spells, wouldn't you, in this army with all the bonuses?
Situationally interesting, I guess.
Turn 1, nothing to do.
Yeah, turn one not in range of stuff, or if you just don't need to particularly cast your spell, but you really want to cast Speed of Hish next turn or something, like that kind of stuff. More for an army without Teclis, and I would say that ability is going to be cool. Yeah.
So then you got some command traits, again, which look, I'm never going to use. I don't know why I bother with these things. It's so annoying.
Yeah, just skip over them next.
Yeah. Phoenix Stone on the Artifact of Power, though.
Yeah.
So this is if your Lumineth Realm-lords hero is slain. This is scenario only. On a 4+, on a 6, that means not slain, and all wounds allocated are healed. Any wounds that could remain to it are negated. So, No.
Well, you can, there's probably an argument if you're running Teclis, right, to just give him a 6+, gets all those wounds back and comes back to life.
You can't have it.
Thing. No, you can have it. A different guy can have it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's slain within 12 of the bearer.
Oh, okay.
You can stick it on someone else, and if Teclis dies on a 6, comes back to life. We all know that when you have things that, like on a 5, bring back an entire unit of Stormcast, they work 100% of the time.
Yes.
So by that math, this one works 50% of the time. So it's, it's not unplayable. I don't think that by any means, because there's not a lot of choices in the artifacts anyway. So if you
the next one's good though, cast an extra spell.
Yeah, cast an extra spell's okay.
That's boss.
It's like it's also pretty good. I do think depending on the army build, sometimes you end up overlapping spells a lot. They're like when you're building the armies, because some of the spells are so good, you end up putting the same spell on a bunch of stuff. So I think the situation sometimes where casting the extra spell, like you don't have anything like super good to cast. Sometimes saying that, this can go on a Law Seeker who very definitely does one extra
cast more spells.
Yeah.
Well, we don't. If he can, unique. Anyway, and then the Blade of Leaping Gold, which is a classic. Add 3 to the attack spirit of the.
But only on a scenario. Most of these guys, though, because they're Lumineth and all the Warscrolls are a bit better than normal, all the mages have actually got like combat attacks that are non-garbage. Like the classic, every mage in the game in old school Age of Sigmar had a staff that was 4s, 3s, 1 rend, D3 damage. Every mage had the same profile. Whereas all these, like the Caligrave, has got D3 attacks, 3s, 3s, 1 rend, D3 damage. So getting +3 of those attacks isn't nothing. It's not like it's, given you can go with 2 units at a time in Lumineth as well, your little hero on 1 unit that are in combat maybe can actually get all their attacks in. So it's not
sure.
It's not irrelevant, although, it's unlikely I think you'll be taking it.
Yeah, that's cool.
Just had a little confirmation there from James Tinsdale in chat that Law Seekers can indeed take traits and artifacts. So I won't bang on too much about the fact that I was right, because Very often that's not the case. But,
you at Bold, you trusted James for a ruling, though.
That's true. That is quite bold. I'm fairly certain that it's only being named changes that. But again, it's either way, right? Law Seekers are incredible. If you can take artifacts.
Yeah, we're in. All right.
We're still playing them anyway. We're running the Law Seeker anyway.
Okay. So Hurricane next.
Yeah.
So their battle trait we talked about already is when you make a pilot move with a Hurricane model, they can pile away from the enemy. And if they made a charge move, they can count as flying and do it for 6 inches. So so
you can charge someone and then pile over to behind them and like murder a character standing behind a unit, or you can pile out of combat. You can pile round to get into a more advantageous combat position. You can charge one unit.
Charge him with the Fox guy. Do your -1 to hit bubble. Activate him. Get back out of there, can't you? So he's not in range.
6, just so he's only in melee with a character or something that he just kills, and the unit doesn't hit him. Or you can charge one unit and then get a free extra 6-inch movement into a different unit.
Yeah,
that you want to fight. Like there's tons of uses for this, and they are fair, fun, interesting uses, not just bent ones, because the units that this is on are not like they're not witch elves or fire slayers or any crazy thing that would make this super stupid. It's actually just interesting and cool.
Yeah, very precision. Like if you took a unit of 10 of those wind chargers, let's say, for like 260 points, which isn't bad at all. No, they've got like 10 attacks in combat that are like 3s, rend 2, and a damage, and like you say, piling in 6 to any direction, like precision on something,
yeah, it's interesting for sure.
It is. It's good. It's good. I like it.
I think the other thing as well is, like very often when you're defending a back objective with a unit, you will ring the objective so nothing can get within 6 of it. Whereas these just pile 6 and fly. So you charge the unit and then just jump onto the objective.
Yeah.
Like you can't actually protect an objective from them grabbing stuff, which is also good.
Oh, it is good. Okay, artifacts for these guys. So these got a big one. Yeah, you got a big one. Wind Blast Fan. So once per battle, at the start of the enemy movement phase, you can pick one enemy unit within 3 of the bearer. That unit must make a normal move and must retreat.
Yeah.
That bonkers good. So
one of the things I find interesting about this is, right, it can only go on the Wind Mage for one.
Yeah.
Right. He's the only character who can hold it, and he's squishy. He'll just die in combat with anything. And you can only use it in the enemy movement phase. So if you charge someone, you're going to get killed before you get to use this. But obviously, the way you use it is you charge something else. You do some, like, you wait for that unit, some unit to fight or something like that. Then you pile your guy in 6 inches, get him over into that unit. Then in the next phase, you make them retreat. It's like, it's a very powerful ability. It's very hard to use it, though. And I'm not sure if the setup is worth the artifact.
Yeah, I'm
really.
I agree.
And normally you will
make this happen.
You'll need a battalion to get access to one of these artifacts as well, is the other thing. So that is one of the things that makes the Hurricane Battalion a bit more worth it. Because if you want to use this thing, which is incredible, you need a battalion to get access to it. Unless you want to not take a great city, which would be mental.
Yeah.
Not to do.
So the next up, the Windstone. Once per battle in your shooting phase, you can pick one enemy unit within 18 of the bearer that is visible to them. On a 1, nothing happens. 2 to 4, 3 mortal wounds, 5 plus D6 mortal wounds. Not a bad, poke spike thing at all. The 2 to 4, 3 mortal is great.
So many artifacts in the game just do this, but 1 mortal.
Yeah.
Or on the 6 mortals. This one's just better. Yeah. It's still only arguably ever worth taking. But these are the things that upset people about this book. Why have they got the same artifacts everyone else has been getting for 3 years, but they're just the same but better? Like, and this is what these artifacts should look like. You're going to waste an artifact, you want it to do at least that.
Yeah.
And the third one is good. 5 up ward save.
Yeah, solid.
Which is just solid. Again, I don't think it's really the right model to care about putting that kind of thing on, but it could be actually. You know what? You say the Wind Blast Fan is very hard to use. that one is probably the default to stick on your Wind Mage so he doesn't die and lose his spell that he's carrying for you.
I don't know how hard the Wind Blast fan is to use, Ian, if I'm honest, mate. Like, I think you can, in combination with a unit, that guy can be alive. Like, you know, flanks protected. He's one model. You know, the enemy can get 3 guys into him. You know, minuses to hit. I'm sure he can stay alive, but
yeah.
I think the Wind Blast fan's really good.
If it's a unit you care about making retreat, it means it's probably big enough for you to want to make it retreat, and probably good enough in combat that you want to make it retreat. Do you really want to stick? You know, is it worth, in terms of setup, sticking 5 kangaroos into that unit to protect him, which will probably be dead kangaroos after that? You know,
I see him offensively with Dawn Riders. But then, where I see his role, like, I've pushed my army and I've got to protect myself from the swing back, you know, if I've been aggressive. So that's what I like.
Yeah, I don't know. If I'm pushing a bunch of Dawn Riders into stuff, I don't think that making something retreat. You know, also as well,
you get doubled. You get doubled. He's coming to your army. You've lost a load of your guys with spears. Yeah, doubles on the cards. It's his go. He's come in. He's pushed you in. Your lads have done what they can to defend your sentinels or whatever. He's in the mix there. Roll off. We lose the roll off. You shove that unit that is going to double turn and, you know, wipe your sentinels out or press on. You know, and you get it out of your way, like defensively, one against stuff like that.
I see what you're saying. I just think there's a lot that has to go right for you, and the situation to make it worth using involves a bunch of stuff going on. You could argue that it's when the worst stuff happens that gets good, which is...
This is the best artifact in the book, but you've got to buy a Wind Mage.
You got to buy a Wind Mage, yeah. Anyway,
if you can argue that, fair play to you. Like, I don't think anything is close to the Wind Blast fan in this book.
I think the takeaway for me from it is that it's, you know, it's an artifact that is hard to use, and it is, although it is very good, it is still situational. Yeah, to use it. You know, but yeah, you're probably right. I mean, if you've got a Wind Mage and you've paid for a battalion to get this artifact, then there's probably a good chance you are taking that artifact. But if you're taking the Wind Mage just to be a teleport on a stick, you might want the 5-up save on him just so you don't lose the teleport.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Anyway, let's read about the spell though.
Yeah, I've got Alarith down here, but I don't believe there's anything to say extra. I think these rules were all there before. I think we're repeating old stuff on them. So, yeah. Cool. Spell
repeating old stuff on what?
On the Alarith. It's all been done before, hasn't it? Endurance and
rock, sorry. Yeah.
So next up, spells. We've got one new spell lore to go through.
Yeah.
The Lord of the Winds.
Lord of the Winds. Yeah. So Teclis now knows 22 spells.
What a man. What a guy.
Yeah, what a guy.
So Freezing Squall's the first one. Caster value 5. One enemy unit within 12 of the caster cannot run in your next hero phase. That's okay. It's okay, yeah. Howling Gale as a casting value of 7. Pick one enemy unit within 12 of the caster that's visible to them. That unit cannot use or benefit from command abilities until your next hero phase. That was really good.
Oh my god. They just got so many spells. There's so many books come out where we get a lore where the lore literally has 0 good spells in it, where they're all just variations on does a mortal wound, does D3 mortal wounds, and the laws are just really poor. And sometimes you get a good one in there and you're lucky. The spell laws in these 2 books are just full of spells that are great. Loads of choice, what you cast, what you give to your guys, and the army can get a bunch of them because they've got so many units in it. And it's great. It's great to see well-designed laws that do loads of interesting different stuff. Why only this book? Yeah. Why not all the rest? It's such a shame.
We've seen this effect banded around before, and it's not being one that people have chose to force, really, has it? But I think that maybe the Teclis just has it, makes this one pretty good. So
that's one of the things that makes him great, because so many of the spells are good, but because he knows all of them, and he can there's so many situational debuffs in the game that you would never take because it's too hard. Most of the time, they don't do enough. Yeah. Whereas when you just know all of them and you can cast them on tap, you know, it's fine. That's what just another reason that Teclis is so good, because he unlocks the sheer amount of power in these 18 lore spells.
Then Guiding Flurries. So this is cast on a 7. Pick one Lumineth Realm-lords unit on with missile weapons wholly within 12. And it can do two things. It can either increase the range by 6 or add +1 to hit.
Yeah. I don't think this is very good.
No, you got a big block of Sentinels to make it any good, haven't you? So,
well, even then, Sentinels' attack is 4s and 4s no rend. Like this does an irrelevant buff. The extra 6
bit of range, but
yeah, it like I can see Edge Case giving them the range buff. You know, like backlined KO. Shooting them with a bunch of wardens if you got them any wardens, that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's not actually that good a spell in this army.
So you got like a couple of units, so you got like 2 units of 20 or something of Sentinels, and you're going to speed a Hish one to put it in range, and then this could go on the other one.
Yeah, exactly.
More in range, you know, like maybe it allows you to bring that.
It's a good thing for Teclis to know. You're never going to take it on purpose on any wizards.
No. Well, maybe some of the shorter range stuff, like we could talk about making the range on the wing charges guys 18 or 24 on the on the 24 on the box, but
they don't really
get there anyway. Yeah. Carmen Zephyr, this one's cast on a 6, unit wholly within 18, and to heal for D3. Also immune to battle shock. So, but heal, which we've seen a few of them pop up in what we've talked about. So a little bit of stacking on the heal side of things.
Most similar spells like this in the game do either of one of those two things. This just does 2, which is nice.
Yeah, well, and there's D6 ones out there as well, equally. But Burning Simoom. I knew I hadn't said that right.
Never heard that word before in my life, but yeah, it's some kind of desert wind, I assume.
Okay, yeah, nice. Cast on a 6, enemy unit within 12 and visible. Number of dice equal to the models in the unit. On a 6, they take a mortal wound, and if it was cast on a 10, it does it on a 5.
Yeah.
So when you one of those great big, obviously Teclis cast this on a 10. There's loads of bonuses to increase this. So if you're going to hit a big unit, you've got your 5 up mortals to everyone in it. So it's there. We've seen it a million times before.
I think one of the things this army is less good against as well is killing large units of things with good saves. You know, even though they got the mortals on the unit in combat, they don't have mad damage output on things in this army. So that's a good thing to have access to. I think just damage rather than all the debuffs they've got.
And then finally, they get the teleport. This one is unit wholly within 12 and anywhere on the battlefield more than 9 away. Now they've considerably nerfed this compared to other teleports in the game, because this is cast on an 8, so that is very hard for Lumineth to do. So they've balanced that nicely. They have made it only within 12 as well. It's a teleport. They've got access to one now. I don't know how much more we need to go about that. It's just an amazing tool to have. Yes, we want it. It is a tiny bit worse than other teleports because wholly within 12 and casting value 8. That is different to other ones, jokes aside, but having Lumineth have this is really good, right? Like all those slow units, those foot units, those wardens, those stone guard, and just all the things that have in a teleport.
Triggers Shining Company. Triggers Shining Company when you teleport a unit of wardens and stick them on an objective.
Yeah.
It triggers the Law Seeker's setup ability when you teleport them.
Yeah.
Etc.
Makes you like it's been quite refreshing playing against Lumineth and not having to screen every single part of the board the whole game. Now
they got to teleport like everyone else. Yeah. Well, I mean, we couldn't have them not have access to an ability that another army in the game has. So you got to make sure they can do absolutely everything.
Yeah, fair enough.
All at once. Yeah.
Big news, though. Big news, like getting the teleport.
The 2 major changes to the army out of this book, in my opinion, are the teleport and the Law Seeker. I think that mostly this book has not actually changed a lot for Lumineth. I think the best Lumineth armies still use stuff out of the first book pretty much. I think you've got a Lore Seeker, and Teclis has now got a new lore. I don't think there's a ton of super important things in this book. There are definitely some nice things, though. You know, like the Blade Lords are good. Oh, sorry, and the terrain piece.
Good. Two great nations before we sum up. Is that okay?
Sorry, I forgot the Great Nations. Yeah, it's my favourite bit.
Sorry, yeah, Ian's going into a summary there a little bit, but there's two great nations added to this book, Lumini and Helon. So first off, do you want to go Illumine? You like this one, right?
Quite happily, yeah. It's my favourite one. This is my new favourite Lumineth one, like full stop. Out of all of them, I think this is better than CR. So start of the game, 3 of your units get to move. Which Venarii or Scenari units, which basically means wardens. I like this for 2 reasons. Number one, one of the Teclis' weaknesses are just being shot turn 1 by things like KO, so you get to push people out, so they can't effectively shoot them. Number 2, Shine and Company is a really strong rule that's very hard to make any decent use of because of the limitations on it. So getting a free 6-inch move with your Venarii, and then turn 1 being able to move up to the mid board is super good as well. And I still think Wardens are the best unit in the book.
Sure.
I think most armies should have 2 units of them, probably. The other thing you can do, obviously, is the Dawn Riders are very fast. With a pre-game move of that, again, they can be charging turn 1. They can be around the sides of people's armies. They can be. I just think you can do tons and tons and tons of stuff with this.
Sure.
The rest of all of it isn't so good. So Burning Gaze, you pick an enemy unit, start the combat phase within 3. On the 2-up, you take 1 mortal. Bad.
Yeah, sure.
Run and charge, command ability, mostly unnecessary for this army. Don't really need it.
Nice to have that there, though, man.
It is nice to have.
A lot of games you want to go a bit further and make a charge like it's
absolutely, yeah. I just don't think it's adds a lot to the army when they're already got so many movement tools.
Yeah, you've got you're like setting up your combo to do something is there already. Yeah. I want to do this turn 1. It's already there. Like, I think a later game reacting stuff, I think it's a nice one to have.
Flip side, I guess, as well, a lot of command abilities in nations and stuff generally tend to be crap, and this is definitely not crap.
No.
And then the artifact is interesting, Waystone. Once a battle, the bearer can teleport 12 inches, only within 3 of enemy units as well. So, yeah, that's certainly unusual and interesting. Again, if it goes on a Lore Seeker, it can trigger his setup.
Once per game, you move a bit further.
Well, and it's a teleport though as well. So I'm thinking like things like you've got your Lore Seeker. Again, this is reliant on the Lore Seeker discussion we've been having being accurate. But you got a Lore Seeker sitting there on his Balewind. He's about to die. You teleport him out 12 inches, which can be onto the next objective. 12 inches is often far enough to get to an objective, and it's you set them up within 1 inch of the point as well. So it's 12 plus 1 plus the base size of the Balewind or the Sanctum of Amentok. So that's interesting. Just being able to teleport like your Regent on his horse who's okay in combat, teleport him over an enemy line within 3 of an enemy, and then charge him and kill a hero. There's loads of utility stuff you can do with that. I think it's
you can move afterwards as well.
I'm assuming that's incorrect.
I don't know for that case. A little reshift and a move. They could leave that on.
No. I am right. Instead of making a normal move.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah. First line always gets you done it.
You change it around. Like this unit may not make a move in the following
phase,
but you do that in the movement phase, which is why it's different. Yeah.
But only more than 3 from enemy units. So there's a bunch of utility stuff. It's much better than +1 attack or some garbage you normally get in them. So that's interesting as well. So I really like them.
I like that one.
Yeah, I think the pre-game move is boss.
Yes, very good.
So powerful. I think CR obviously has got a very powerful command ability with goading arrogance, but it's situational because there's not always anything to use it on. Whereas
double Aether Quartz.
The double Aether Quartz. Yeah, sorry, I was just going into the other stuff. I was just going to compare the abilities. Yeah. So basically, this or double Aether Quartz is that's the main comparator. I think double Aether Quartz is obviously really good, but
Golden Arrows is amazing as well.
When it's got something to target, not not all armies have something to target with it.
Cool.
But yeah, I think for me, like I prefer this. I'm not saying it is the best. It's certainly the one I like the most. I think if you're not going to use a lot of wardens, the value of this one certainly goes down a lot. Like the main value in that, I think, is in keep and shine and company and moving around, which I think is quite a good thing. But yeah, I think I really like it. It's good. It's interesting.
Okay, that's cool. I was just going to say about the Waystone and the teleport. I like the teleports that aren't just like pick my guy up and put it anywhere on the board 9 away. I like the little restrictive ones they do. I'd like to see more of that. So
yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
Okay, so next one, the Great Nation of Helon. Okay,
yeah,
I like this one. You know, like so
it's for an army build. I don't rate though, so that's why it's not really into. I'm not into it that much, but
okay, yeah, I like. First of all, it allows wind charge to be battle line.
Yes, that's a big deal. Yeah.
That's a big deal. Okay, so, because otherwise the only battle line in the army. Okay, look, they've got a lot of counts as battle line, right? But wardens have to be there. Wardens your battle line. They unlock Dawn Riders and they unlock Sentinels. And then you can have Stone Cold and you can have Blade Guard. Now, I think the Blade Guard one's quite good because for every scenario character in your army, 1 unit of Blade Guard can be battle line. So getting an extra battle line unit from just having them to protect your Lore Seeker or your characters is good. It's like a sort of a free way to get some battle line in.
Yeah.
So I actually quite like that,
and it makes them better in a lot of missions for objectives as well. Of course.
Yeah, because I'm sort of like not buying as many wardens as you, and I think is where we're going to be different. So next up, I think for me that's a big deal. Adds 1 to the attack characteristics of missile weapons used by Helon models that are within 3 of an enemy unit. So look, all those things we talked about before, which allow them to stay within 3 of the enemy, but far enough away that they can be in combat as a bow unit, but still be protected. You can increase the shots on your bows here quite a bit, So
all your kangaroos end up with 2 attacks, 3s and 3s, 2 Ren, 1 damage each when they're in melee, which still isn't massive damage.
Only missile weapens.
Yeah. Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
So their bows go 3/3s.
Yeah.
The Fox
that's even worse. I thought it was missile weapons that we used in melee. I thought they'd gone like funky with it for all the guys who use bows in combat. Like, it actually reads much more simple than I read it. Yeah, I think that's
the Foxes get it. Sentinels get it when they're like in combat. Maybe they're behind your wardens.
Yeah.
Doing the whole classic pikes in front, bows behind thing. They can get a load more shots as well when they're in combat. So it's okay.
I think it's bad. Like,
it's okay.
For you to get a bonus off this, you have to have already been in combat the turn before.
Yeah.
Right? Which of these units are in combat the turn after they've charged on purpose, except in some weird situation?
Well, they're not, right? Like it's where you've constructed a situation using all these funky rules to stay in combat and hold your opponent in combat at range, right? Like, if that's good is another thing, but
yeah, that's what I mean. If you do all that, use all them funky rules to hold your opponent in combat, all that kind of stuff, and you get +1 attack on a bow.
Exactly. You've not done all that to end the game, though, right? You've done all that to control the enemy's units in some way, and it's not like, oh, now I end the game because I've got an extra shot. It's like I end the game because of the board's control.
It's a weak ability. Like, you're taking this to make your kangaroos battle line, right?
That's overriding. That's it. Make kangaroos battle line. That ability is okay. But
yeah.
And then Gone Like the Wind is you can use this command ability at the end of the combat phase. If you do, pick 1 friendly Helon unit that fought in that hero in that phase and is wholly within 12 of a friendly Helon hero. That unit can make a normal move but cannot run. It can retreat. That is good.
Now, this is good. Yeah,
that is really good. Like, so I love that.
Then there, have a fight. Get out.
Boss.
More hit and run skirmish tactics.
Yeah, really, really good. And then The next is it's got good command trait and good artifacts as well, which is nice from this one. Everything is okay, and you get the wind charges battle line here. So the command trait is once per battle you can reroll 1 run and 1 charge and 1 cast and roll for the general. So that's quite nice.
Weirdly worded that.
Yeah.
Once per battle, comma, those 3 things that reads like once per battle you can do all 3 of those. Is that like 1 turn? You get to do. I mean, it's obviously meant to be each of those once a battle, but it's very badly worded.
Fair enough.
Like,
yeah, I feel like that'd be good on a regent or something. Getting a run roll, getting a charge roll, cast and roll for getting your D3 powered up weapons off. So he's good.
Normally, when you see these abilities, it's like one of the following rolls in a battle or something like that, and this is giving you all 3. So yeah, it's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's okay. It's not amazing.
And then once per battle at the start of the combat phase, you can pick 1 enemy unit within 3 of the bearer. If you do, subtract 1 from hit and wound rolls for attacks made by that unit to the end of the phase. Really good.
That's very powerful. Yeah.
So that is all the great nations. Yeah. Everything covered in the Lumineth book. I think now we should probably take a look at what we think of the army overall. Then we're going to go into only a couple of lists. I'm slightly aware of time, actually, for yourself, Ian. You've got Garden Hammer shortly, haven't you? So
I am Garden Hammering today. Yeah,
Garden Hammering today, which is nice.
Yeah,
so.
I think overall, I think it's really interesting. So I think that the army didn't gain a lot out of this book, although you can argue that just gaining a teleport spell is a lot. It is. It's massive, actually. But in terms of models and battalions and all that kind of stuff, I don't think it actually gained that much. I think Dawn Riders and Wardens are still the 2 default units. I think that Teclis is still pretty much an auto-include. Like, I won't spend ages talking about why he's an auto-include, but it's still very difficult to argue that anything is better than Teclis in this army. I think, the Law Seeker is obviously a big deal. I do think there is a new build with all the kangaroos. I personally don't rate it. I think the payoff for all that cool, funky stuff you can do isn't there enough. And I think some books, when you read them, like when we reviewed the KO book, for example, right, and everyone thought it was the worst book that had ever been released, and it's doing a good job now. Some books are more than the sum of their parts. When you add it all up, they get to do a tactic that actually makes their raw numbers better than they otherwise look. I think Lumineth are like the other way around. I think the books are the sum of the parts is no greater than just the parts. Like, they don't have crazy mad combat. They don't have a bunch of abilities they can stack on top of each other to make something like Witch Elves or Heartguard Berserkers or anything crazy. They've got lots of different things, and individually all their units are a little bit undercosted and have access to a few more rules than they maybe should have. But I think the armies you get out of it in total are not... There's no tricks or combos or mad things. It's just an army that does what it says on the tin, which is be more efficient than most other armies. And to some degree, that makes them less good than armies like Fireslayers or Nurgle or whatever, where you can stack up all these crazy things. Even though every unit in the army has got more rules than it should have and is a bit undercosted, the result is just a normal Warhammer army.
You know what, man? I can't believe you summed that up. Like, considering we've not talked that really how I feel about it as well. I definitely would have put it a lot less eloquently. But, for me, do these have anything broken that is just like, here's this thing and it's going to slam into you and crush you, and that's it done.
Yeah, they don't.
Doesn't have it. Does it have an absolute million things to do? Stacks of rules, stacks of decisions. Yeah. It does.
More options than any army. It does everything. It's got shooting, it's got melee, it's got maneuverability, it's got magic immunity, it's got insane amount of control spells, abilities like the Cathalar that really shouldn't exist in my opinion, that battle shock thing. It's got so many things, more than any army really has a right to. If this is the standard of books, every other army in the game needs a rewrite. It's likely that this is just better from what we've seen in other books recently. This book's just got more attention, more stuff. Does it result in an army that does deepkin to you? No. does it result in an army that even does like Archaon in Khorne? No, not even that level.
All these things will come out before what Seraphon are out there doing. Like it.
The main weakness.
It's got so many rules. It does so many things. It's got a couple of oppressive things. Like I don't like board wide 2 CP. I don't like board wide -2 bravery. You know, I don't like those things. You know, no ranges. Disappointing. I don't like the Cathar battle shock bounce back thing. You know, combined with those things and an
amazing control spell. Yeah,
crazy control spell, and it's got another one in the stone mage as well. So it's got that negative thing where it's like, you know, now let's say there's Windblast fan and there's things to stop you using command abilities on stuff as well. Like it's control things all there. And I think
it's not the best play experience to play against.
Yeah. I think like, and you're doing lots and your opponent isn't doing a lot. You know, you always get that feeling like hero phase takes forever. There's all these things happening, you know, and there is a lot of hero phase there, and you would have to be wearing when you get into your sequence and you get into your order of things, your things will get quicker and all that. Like, but
I do think it
falls over in combat for me.
Yeah, it just doesn't have that level of stuff in, and to get the toughness into the army, which is basically CR plus Teclis, it means you don't have. They might be tough individual models at that point, but you don't have enough of them. Don't have many of them. So yeah, it's. Don't get me wrong. I still think it is an S tier army because everything's really cheap and it's got an answer to everything, and the control stuff is mega powerful. Yeah. But I think that all the other S tier armies in the game, which for me is like Fire Slayers, Tzeentch with its shooting, Seraphon, all that kind of stuff. Well, this isn't any better than them. In a lot of ways, it's worse. And one thing I do like about it, I really like about it, compared to Flesh Eater Courts and Slaanesh and that kind of stuff, if you play this army badly, you will do badly. You play this army well, you will do well.
Yes.
And weirdly, I actually think that makes it a very well-written book. Really good book, right? Really good internal balance. Much better than a lot of other armies even that are out there now. The only negative thing I've got to say about Lumineth as a whole, really, I think, is that they've showcased what a good book can look like. Like what they've shown us now, that they are capable of writing a really good army with loads of interesting stuff in it, that they're capable of costing 5-man cavalry units properly, that they're capable of costing elite units properly, that they're capable of writing loads of interesting rules that aren't just do immortal or battle shock immunity. You look at Glutos or Scullion's Warscroll, super unimaginative and boring, like battle shock immunity, +1 bravery, -1 to hit bubble. Incredible, crazy kit, boring and not that good on the tabletop. We know that better can happen, and that's the negative takeaway from this book for me, is that other book could just be so much better. But this book itself, I actually think is fantastic, and is really well written and really well balanced. And I actually look forward to playing this army and playing against it, as long as I'm not using any spells, basically.
Yeah, I get that feels like how everyone's opinions and reactions are obviously, I don't know what's in people's heads, but you read a war scroll for something new that comes out, it's got at the end of the combat phase on a 4+ they take a mortal wound. And then you read one of these war scrolls and it's got all these really good things that they wrote. Yeah. And like that's why like your reaction to this is just like I has to guess that a lot of people's reactions to this like, oh my god, Yeah.
I'm
gonna bring up
mine as well. Initially, I've got to say mine was like, wow, are we kidding here? But as something you always say is, what do the armies look like though? Yeah, and that's the important thing. And
I'd played against Lumineth like maybe like 8 times. Like I've beat them most of the time, or I actually lost with them as well. But I don't think that is any sort of boast or anything, because it was in like a learning phase for whoever was playing the Lumineth, right? But I'd seen some bits that were, like, oh, these are weak here. Actually, you can pick this thing apart.
They're bad against shooting. They're bad against shooting. It's a shooting game right now. Like
exactly right. I'm going to shoot that unit. Okay, +2 to me save. Fine. right, I'm going to shoot all that now, and this does not like it does just fall apart in a lot of ways. And I've said that knowing the army very well yourself and knowing all their rules and
remembering to put the 22 spells.
Yeah, and make sure your opponents kept honest with that. Like, I don't mean that they were cheating, but sometimes people think things do more than they do at times. I'm going to do all these things over here. It's like, oh, actually, you have to pay for that and you have to do that. And, it's just little things like that. I want to go points by ZZ Grom again. It must be better than it was, which was already S tier. Now, we're going to do some lists now. We look at loads of lists, in fairness to us. I think we both have looked at these and be like, wow, there's a lot going on. What can we do differently? There isn't. We're not going to show you how some Wardens, some Sentinels, and Teclis look with a Lore Seeker, okay?
Because that already exists, yeah.
Because that's it, right? That is the S tier army. It's better. It's got a Lore Seeker. It's got a terrain piece. And the army can teleport now.
Tiers have a width as well, right? Like, they go up and down, but you're still in the same tier. It's not like it's an exact science. And I think arguably, again, looking at the armies, were they S tier before? Like, we think they were. I said they were. A lot of people said they were. But where were all the tournament results? Not a lot of people were playing them. Maybe they weren't S tier. S tier only in the hands of very experienced players as well, as I've just said, maybe. So I don't know that that's necessarily the case.
Pull up a couple of points from the Warhammer Games Club, right? Decision confusion is one of the biggest weaknesses. He follows it up with, it has no forgiveness, no out of jail option, and that plays into what Ian's just said then is, you're not just going to pick this army up and go to town and take people out. Because
you're not going to go varnish with this army off the sheet of courts. It's, and I do think if even a good player, bad rolls, like where Paul says there, no get out of jail free option, you get some bad rolls, you haven't got raw numbers to back it up in this army. So, yes, I do think it's an S tier army, absolutely. But I don't think it will be forgiven. And that makes it in a lot of ways worse than armies like Deepkin, where pretty much just do one thing. And if you learn how to do it well, every game's the same. Yeah. Which is one of the reasons I don't ever take my Deepkin out, is because I feel like I'm going to have boring games with them. Where these, I feel like if I'm going to play them, it's actually going to be on me to win me games rather than on dice rolls to win me games.
So let's just look at two lists then, briefly.
I think we're quantifying off these lists are... the best Lumineth list right now, which is like Teclis plus a character and a bunch of Wardens and Dawn Riders, I don't think that changed with this book. I think they are still probably some of the best lists. The only difference is maybe you'll take a Lore Seeker instead of a Cathalar, and maybe you will cast a teleport spell and have a shrine. I don't think it drastically changes the obvious best builds for the army.
And who doesn't pick up a new book and write armor lists around the new stuff, right?
Yeah, which is what we've done. Yeah.
Who doesn't do that? If you want to say you've got 10 less Sentinels or 10 more Wardens, meh. So, first one, this is from you, Ian. This is an Lumini army. Oh, you've got Teclis?
Yeah.
I've not even looked at these.
So this is just, leveraging that Alumnia pre-game move to keep Teclis alive and also to keep Shine and Company where possible. For the -1s on the Wardens. So 3 units of Wardens just doing Warden things, 10 Dawn Riders. This is sort of a bit of an unfinished army in a lot of ways, because it's got a Balewind and a command point. The Balewind is for a Lore Seeker to protect himself a little bit or whatever. Yeah. Bit unfinished in a lot of ways, this army, because I was mostly starting with 3 units of 20 Wardens for Alumnia. But I had 100 points left. It's a good example of the Ballista. I really don't want a Star Shard Ballista in that army there, right? What I want is another unit of guys, really. And that could be a unit of stone hammer guys in there, because they're only 100 points. But I thought the Ballista worked better. But it's an example of where in some army builds, when you're putting them, you just don't have enough points left over to take anything better.
So we go into that a little bit there. You could have like Star Shard for 100 and a command point 150. Yeah. And then you got 160 points there then with those 10, haven't you?
I will never run an army more than 1990 points. Ideally 1980. I just think I value having a triumph and not giving one to my opponent too much. to ever run a 2,000 point army, personally.
You could take some Blade Guard and their Twin Stones.
So I don't want to drop the command point for Battle Shock reasons, and I don't want to drop the Balewind because I want the Law Seeker to be on it. That's the thing. I mean, the argument
why not drop the Star Shard and the command point and buy Cathar?
Yeah, that's also valid. But again, it's a 2-up. I don't like 2-ups. I really dislike 2-ups in many different ways. But yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. This is an unfinished list. This isn't.
You got the heal, which makes people Battle Shock immune as well now, haven't you? So
yeah, like the point is basically.
I'm trying to pick it apart. You say it's unfinished, and you've got some points there. You like, and I can see how you got behind that. This core of 60 lads up the board in a dominant position, hiding behind Shining Company and whatnot, don't you? So
yeah, that's basically what I want to go. Yeah, and making sure Teclis doesn't get shot off by a lot of armies where that can push them out. And that's the kind of thing I want to do with Alumnia is that sort of stuff, basically. Yeah. 10 Dawn Riders could also be 2 units of 5 Dawn Riders if you wanted to. I want to hit stuff with mine. And then it's just those last points, getting those last things in. Like what you do with those last points, you get another unit of 5 more men. Because I think someone asked a question earlier, which I'd actually planned to mention, was I think you need 80 wounds of troops minimum. Is the number I would be aiming for most of the time. So like 60 Wardens and 10 Dawn Riders or whatever. I think you ideally more, but you just don't get much more with Teclis. So
yeah, and you've not got Sentinels because otherwise it's just the same army as we've just spoke about, basically, haven't we? So
yeah. I mean, you could fit Sentinels and you could take the Balewind and the Ballista out.
Classic army, then, isn't it? Of course.
Yeah. I just don't like. I don't think 10 Sentinels does enough.
No, not 10. You're going to have more, haven't you? But
if you want to do that, I've seen a lot of armies with 10 throwing Sentinels in. I think if you're going to take them, you want 20 so they can kill something every turn. Whereas just having 10's a bit like meh.
Yeah, because here you'll shoot your Star Shard Ballista at whatever the Dawn Riders are going to go and get stuck into, right? Unless you're trying to kill something.
For the -1, yeah.
Or a little bit.
Exactly, yeah. Or I'll just be shooting at some hero or something or other.
Yeah.
Some small unit.
It's nice the Law Seeker with the Lambent Light. Actually, I not thought of that. It helps put that in range if you are doing the Sentinel thing, and you want the rerolls, or you are going to go in with your Dawn Riders. You want the rerolls for your swords or your lancers or whatever. Some metal weapons, isn't it? That's quite good. It's hard to get in range.
Yeah, he's got the Waystone as well for the for teleporting around. Maybe if he does survive and gets surrounded, and he's going to die, he can teleport off. Or he's not bad at killing things either. So in theory, you set him up using his setup rules. Turn 1, you just teleport him and assassinate something.
Yeah,
a bunch of stuff he can do.
Well, do you want to see what I've put on the board?
Yeah, go on.
That may be finished or not. I agree. I'm in the same position with you. I'm like trying to close out these last things. So I haven't got Teclis, which means I've got stuff. So this is a Helon army. So I took the Law Seeker. The spells, I did just sort of throw the spells at these, to show how many I'd have.
Total Eclipse is good on him as well.
Which one's Total Eclipse?
The CP one. Total Eclipse is the -2 to cast Dispels and Unbinds on all wizards within 12.
See, now seeing you, I'd have Lambent Light on him. Now seeing what you've done, 100%.
In your army, you should have Lambent Light on him.
Absolutely, great choice. Throw Lambent Light on him. And then I've got the Wind Mage, and I've took the Wind Blast Fan, Transport and Vortex. So I've took the Teleports. I've got both those really cool techie things in there as well. And I've got the Lord Regent, which I've made the General. So he gets the 2 really good items that we talked about before, the -1 to hit, -1 to wound, and he gets the rerolls for himself. Yeah. Now I've took a nice big block of Wardens. Now this is where this army hopefully showcases my battle line point a little bit to everybody. Like I've played against units of 10 Sentinels a lot and played with them, and I'm not really a fan of them. They don't trade very well. They don't trade at all. I'm just not particularly into it. Yes, you get lots of spells and stuff, which is nice. So yeah, and I think that the Great Nation could maybe change around here. But I've got a big block, 30 Wardens. It's their real unit. Can get some nice buffs put on it as well. It can be made ethereal. it can obviously get its weapons empowered. It can get teleported and things as well here. Gone for a nice big block, and then I've took 2 units to Sentinels, which is a little bit lower, sort of like another 10 in there as well, which is what I was playing around with towards the end. And then I've got 2 units to 10 Dawn Riders and the Dawn Rider Lance. So I like Dawn Riders, right? I want to shove Dawn Riders into people. I can't be bothered. Although it fits into how I play, and I would definitely, the next list I build would be a load of -1 to hit bubble stuff and keeping things alive and, you know, Blade Lords and bouncing wounds and just doing what I've always done. But I really like Dawn Riders. There's a few units they can't fight very well, but there's units that they are just fantastic against. So yeah, 2 nice big units to 10. They can go in. I can activate them both at the same time. I really like those. And then I've got 2 units of wind charges to hopefully do a lot of the skirmishing things, since my Dawn Riders are going to really commit. I'm hoping that I can back them up with wind charges and make charge rolls as well with the wind charges maybe, and then use their pylons like afterwards to help screen the Dawn Riders, or use the command points from the command ability to pull the Dawn Riders back out once I've committed them, to make sure they're not just thrown away. So I think a combination of like being able to move back behind wind charge units, or wind charges doing the wind charger thing. Like, I don't know if this needs a Fox guy to make all this work really, really well.
There's all sorts. Yeah.
Am I getting my points across there?
Yeah. This is one of the things that's really interesting about the army, and why actually, you know, in some old list shows, we can read a book and we can tell you what the best 3 lists are, and there's no doubt, and we will be 95% accurate. In some of these books, this one particularly, it's not really possible to do that, because the book is well internally balanced. And someone made a point in chat earlier saying, what I like is my armies look like a real army, because you can do what you've done here.
Look at that.
Wind Chargers, Dawn Riders. There's 4 different units. No army ever does that normally, and that's good.
Look, you know, like that point of the camera, you can't see them. Like that. Look, it all does stuff.
Yeah,
like the Sentinels are doing things. The Wardens, massive block of pikemen.
Yeah,
massive units of cavalry coming in. I've got heroes. I've got 30 cavalry.
So my other
maybe this could be played in the one where I have double spells, because I'm not sure if I'm like, I want to give up on spells without Teclis, or I want to try and compensate for it.
Yeah, if you haven't got Teclis, you take Hessian Twin Stones, auto include Hessian Twin Stones for all the bonuses, basically, and then you just go to town with all your spells. Like, I've got I was going to say a similar thing to that. Mine's a little bit more boring than yours, but I've got another alumni list I had written down, which was no Teclis, a Venari Lord Regent, and a Caligrave with 3 Star Shard ballistas in the Star Shard battery. This is while I was still trying it. I wouldn't take that now. I'd take something else in those places, but it's got 60 Wardens in 320s and 20 Dawn Riders. You can get a lot of stuff in the armies as soon as you stop taking Teclis, and I don't know whether it's correct not to have him, just because he's so powerful and does so much for those points. But I think if you're gonna cut back on character, like, I think if you don't take Teclis and you spend 600 points on other characters, that's wrong.
Oh yeah,
because he's better. But when you take, like, I've got similar to you, I've got a Lord Regent and a Law Seeker. You know, like, you take them 2, you really cut down. You get a lot more bodies in the army, and you get to have, like, you know, you got your Sentinel shooting stuff, you got your pikes. You know, there's a lot you can do, and that's one of the reasons the army excites me a little bit. You know, something I've always said, I don't like playing armies where they've only got one build. It's one of the reasons I like Cities of Sigmar. There's just a million things you can do, even using mostly the same models. You know, change your Great Nation, change your characters, change a couple of units around. You know, loads of options, and I like this army. I'm struggling not to want to play it. Now I've read it more, and I actually think it's worse than I originally thought it was. But I still think it's a great army. It makes me want to play it because there's loads of builds.
There is, and it's annoying if it's just dominating, if it just ends up being what's the number of Sentinels, right? Like, but because the army that is going around right now is really good. I think there's work to do on what I'm looking at there, but I'd like, this is where I'd put that on the table in some way and play, and then maybe start thinking about like where I want some other things and where I could maybe fit a Fox in to carry on doing some of that stuff, or maybe like having the -1 to hit from having some ballistas to help back up those Dawn Riders. But Really?
Yeah,
Don't hang around.
There's a lot you can do. It's a good book. It is a good book. It's a really good book. The army is really good, but it does less degenerate things than other books, even though it might still feel bad to play against, just because so many of the stuff's got so many rules.
Yeah.
But I think I would rather play against it. Again, the spells issue aside, I don't like my army is immune to spells. I think that's junk. I don't think that's good. A good way of putting stuff together. But that aside, I would rather play against this than Fire Slayers or Deepkin or Zinch. I would rather play against it. So I guess that means it's probably less powerful.
Yeah, sure. Well, I think we should wrap it up there, guys. Thank you, everybody who's watched it all the way through. Thank you who's watched it to the end. Thank you, everyone who's asked questions and that as well. And if you listen to this back on the podcast, again, thanks very much. Come over to YouTube. We do a lot of stuff on here that is not on the podcast as well. Give us a like, give us a subscribe. If you're watching this back, leave a comment. Love to see what army list you guys like to play and what you think is really good in Lumineth right now. And of course, shop at justplaygames.uk for all your hobby purchases. Everything we just talked about, we've got in stock right now. You can pick it all up on our website. Yeah, it's here. Maybe slightly laid out to be pretty, but there it is. Thanks very much, guys. Really appreciate it. Ian, thanks for coming on again. Always good to have your insights and get chatting with you. Thanks, man.
Thank you. All right. See you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Goodbye, everyone. See you next time.